In front of Master Long San, you're just an ant. Starting now, I, Master Long San, am going to dominate heaven and earth. You are only fit to crawl beneath my feet. Long Chun floated in the air like a god of fire looking down on the rest of the world. The violent way his hair and robes blew about him made him look deranged. His spiritual strength was also chaotic. He's practically insane. He dares to say such a thing? Kindongza shook his head. Then looking at Long San's scarlet eyes, it was clearly the effect of fire poison that had made him lose his reasoning. That was why he would say such brazen words. Every one of the disciples surrounding the martial arena was unable to accept it. He had basically called all of them ants. Too arrogant. A newcomer also dares to be this arrogant? Who do you think you are? Luo Xiao, kill him. I've seen arrogant people, but never anyone so arrogant. Quite a few disciples couldn't help but curse Long Chen. Perhaps this was simply envy for a disciple of the divine pill hall. They finally had an excuse to openly curse one of them. Long San, you really are an idiot. I, Luo Xiao, began the switch to a flame cultivator half a year ago. My foundation is much more profound than yours. Furthermore, my cultivation base is in the Jade Core realm. As for you, you're just in the foundation forging realm. Where did this arrogance of yours come from? Do you think I only have this little bit of ability? Let me tell you, that was just a test. The real fight starts now. Realize that next year, today will be the anniversary of your death. This is the real power of a flame cultivator. Power of the flame spirit, form of 10,000 beasts, I am your soul, my life is your name. Contractual flame spirit beast, appear. Boom. Flames suddenly erupted out of Luo Xiao as he formed hand seals. They condensed into a huge figure beneath his feet. It was a flame salamander hundreds of meters long. A terrifying pressure caused the spectators' hearts to shake. This Luo Xiao is actually able to condense his own earth flame spirit beast? Kindongza was a bit surprised. There were two types of earth flame spirit beasts. One was natural earth flames that took the appearance of beasts. They could be forcibly subdued and enslaved to fight for their master. But earth flames had their own spirits, and using a slave imprint to forcibly order it to fight would cause a conflict between its spirit and its master's will. Sometimes it would suddenly attack its master. The second method involved condensing an earth flame spirit beast through a kind of secret art possessed by Pill Valley. This earth flame spirit beast would be fully obedient. The prerequisite to do such a thing was to sacrifice a portion of your spiritual strength to give life to the earth flame spirit beast. This earth flame spirit beast formed from your own earth flame energy and spiritual strength would be 100% loyal, because its soul was a part of your soul. The master and beast could fight all out. Every alchemist could raise earth flame spirit beasts, but sacrificing a portion of their spiritual strength for an earth flame spirit beast was not worth it. As for the spiritual strength you sacrificed, it would never fully recover. It signified that you would never have 100% of your soul energy ever again. Each sliver of spiritual strength was extremely important to an alchemist. Sometimes the success or failure of a refinement was dependent on just that one sliver. As a result, there were essentially no alchemists that raised their own earth flame spirit beasts. Furthermore, the more powerful the earth flame spirit beast, the more soul energy would be exhausted. Luo Xiao's earth flame spirit beast was extremely powerful. Luo Xiao had sacrificed a full 10% of his spiritual strength to raise it. That was why it was so terrifying, capable of instantly killing ordinary Jade Core experts. Die! Luo Xiao's flame salamander suddenly charged forward, slamming a claw at Long Chen. Boom! Flames filled the sky. Long Chen had met the salamander's claw with his fist. Compared to the flame salamander, Long Chen was as tiny as a fly. Although he managed to stop the claw, he was constantly being pushed back by it. The huge power blew apart Long Chen's shoes. Blood-red runes appeared on Long Chen's feet. They ground against the metal bricks, releasing a hair-raising metallic ringing. Not bad. That earth flame essence wasn't wasted. Long San's physical body is comparable to a body cultivator. Seeing Long Chen rely on just his physical strength to block this flame salamander, Zhuo Tianxiang nodded. Reporting to Protector Zhua, disciple has noticed that Long San's physical body is extremely powerful. Even after absorbing all that earth flame essence, it doesn't seem like he's reached his limit. If we had more time and he could absorb more earth flame essence, his body would grow even stronger, interjected Elder Zhu. I see. Alchemists normally have weak bodies. This Long San really is an oddity. If we weren't in such a rush, he definitely would be raised properly. With such a powerful physical body, there's basically no way he can lose. When he gets back, properly raise this secret weapon. Perhaps he can give us a pleasant surprise. Zhuo Tianxiang smiled. Boom. Long Chen was finally unable to continue blocking the power of the flame salamander and was sent flying. Luo Xiao didn't give Long Chen any chance to recover. The tail of the salamander whipped toward him. Do you think you're the only one with an earth flame spirit beast? Power of the flame spirit, form of 10,000 beasts, I am your soul, my life is your name. Contractual flame spirit beast, appear. Long Chen suddenly made the same hand seals and chanted the same thing as Luo Xiao. Seeing this shocked everyone, even Zhuo Tianxiang and the ones in the room. Under my supervision and guidance, Long San can now use this move. Elder Zhu modestly smiled. But the delight in his eyes sold him out. In truth, Elder Zhu was just trying to make himself look better. This wasn't something he had taught Long Chen. It was something he had taken the initiative to learn. Suddenly, a huge blood-colored wolf appeared in the air. It was extremely lifelike, looking just like a real magical beast. It immediately let out a furious howl. All its hair stood on end, and its eyes contained icy killing intent. He's actually able to condense such a lifelike earth flame spirit beast? Just how much spiritual strength did he sacrifice? Asked Zhuo Tianxiang. The more solid the earth flame spirit beast, the greater its power, and the more spiritual strength had to be sacrificed to condense it. I really don't know. Long San has so much spiritual strength that even after condensing this earth flame spirit beast, I didn't sense his spiritual strength drop. Elder Zhu shook his head, sighing. The wolf bit the salamander's tail and instantly tore it off. Not giving the tail any time to transform into runes, the wolf opened its mouth and devoured it. This blood-colored flame wolf was no earth flame spirit beast. It was one of Huolong's transformations. Its appearance was similar to Little Snow's, but its fur was blood-colored instead of white, the specific color of the berserk blood flame. Long Chen stood atop its head. Seeing this familiar figure, he felt a wave of emotion. It was like he could see Little Snow blocking the Yama King blood curse for him and dying in the immemorial path. Little Snow, charge! Long Chen let out a quiet cry. It was like he had returned to a time when they could fight alongside each other. Huolong seemed to be able to sense Long Chen's emotions, and it let out a roar. It bent its legs and then pounced at Luo Xiao as quick as lightning. Luo Xiao was shocked and infuriated. He had never imagined that Long Chen would have an earth flame spirit beast, and one even stronger than his own at that. Due to Long Chen's earth flame being of an even higher rank than Luo Xiao's, his earth flame spirit beast was stronger, causing Luo Xiao to panic. Luo Xiao made the salamander dodge, wanting to avoid it being killed in one hit. But he didn't know that Long Chen's flame wolf was no ordinary earth flame spirit beast. Huolong had been raised by Long Chen from its youth, and it had experienced countless bloody battles with him. It possessed its own combat instincts. Although its form had changed to a wolf instead of a dragon, it was still nimble and agile. Missing its first dash, its back legs stamped on the ground and it spun, rushing toward the salamander that had just dodged. Luo Xiao had yet to even stabilize it yet. Boom! In front of countless shocked gazes, the wolf's paw slammed into the salamander, making it explode. Although Luo Xiao had abandoned his earth flame spirit beast at the last moment and was flying away, he was coughing up blood from the shockwaves. Before he could do anything, a figure appeared in front of him, and a large hand clamped over his throat, holding him in the air like a chicken. A pair of eyes with blood-colored runes in them stared at him. That gaze was like the gaze of a death god, and Luo Xiao's soul almost fled out of terror. Long San, don't kill me, please, I'm begging you. At this time, Luo Zhao's throat was caught and he couldn't speak. He could only send out a spiritual message, begging for mercy. I had no choice other than to target you. Please, let me go. I won't do anything to you ever again. Luo Zhao was full of terror. The outsiders couldn't sense Luo Zhao's spiritual messages outside the martial stage, but they saw his begging appearance. Speak. Who deceived Duan Tianxiao? Long Chen's voice was icy without the slightest emotion, just like a grim reaper from hell. Blood-colored runes surfaced on Long Chen's hand, and the flames instantly enveloped Luo Zhao. At that time, Long Chen released Luo Zhao's throat, and a miserable cry resounded throughout the arena. Everyone felt a chill. Long San was completely vicious. He had not only killed Luo Zhao, but he had also made him suffer the pain of being incinerated before his death. Luo Zhao's miserable cry hung in the air for half an incense stick's time before Long Chen's flames incinerated him into nothing. Even his soul was gone without a trace. Behind Long Chen, the flame wolf, which had already absorbed all the flame salamander's energy, shrank down to 3 meters and quietly stood behind Long Chen. One man and one beast stood atop the martial stage. Everyone was deathly silent, and all their gazes gathered on this man whose eyes unleashed a scarlet light. Chu Chunxing, you little bastard, I, Master Long San, challenge you to a life and death match right now. If you're a man, you'll come out and fight me to the death. Long Chen suddenly let out a furious roar that shook the sky. His killing intent had reached a terrifying level that made others involuntarily shudder. Chu Chunxing was an existence that few outer disciples would know. But to old inner disciples that had investigated things in the Divine Pill Hall, he was quite well known. They also knew why Long Chen would challenge him. That was because the one that had tricked Duan Tianxiao of her purity was Chu Chunxing. In truth, Chu Chunxing's reputation was extremely bad in the Divine Pill Hall. Many people loathed him. He had a decent face, but the way he acted disgusted people. Pill Valley did not prevent men and women from dual cultivating. A situation where a man had multiple dual cultivation Dao companions was not that rare. But the majority of those men would tell their Dao companions about everything. They wouldn't conceal their partners. That was because whether it was in the secular world or cultivation world, the feeling of being tricked was unendurable. That was especially true in the cultivation world. The Dao heart was extremely important, and being tricked like this would very easily form a heart devil. It was taboo. As for Chu Chunxing, what he had cared about was Duan Tianxiao's potential. He had helped her when she had had no support, showing care for her in every possible manner and winning her heart. Only later had Duan Tianxiao noticed that Chu Chunxing had other Dao companions. She was able to accept this. But then she had heard Chu Chunxing speaking with Jiang Zijuan. Only then had she learned that Chu Chunxing didn't have any feelings for her. He had only gotten close to her to get another helper for the Divine Shield Alliance. At that time, Duan Tianxiao had felt like the heavens were collapsing. She had demanded to know why Chu Chunxing would trick her. Who would have thought that after being exposed, Chu Chunxing wouldn't even be the slightest bit apologetic? Instead, he insulted Duan Tianxiao for not being able to recognize kindness. If it hadn't been for him, she wouldn't have been able to enter the Divine Pill Hall in her lifetime. Duan Tianxiao had never imagined that the modest man she liked was actually such a person. She was completely disheartened and contemplated suicide. It was the pill fairy that had saved her from this darkness. It took a long time for this matter to be settled. However, just a few days ago, the day Duan Tianxiao had committed suicide, Chu Chunxing had gone to find her in her courtyard. It was unknown what had gone down between them, but it was that very day that Duan Tianxiao killed herself. Long Chen hadn't known about all this. This information was what he had found out by investigating Luo Zhao's soul before he died. Long Chen almost couldn't believe a man would be so shameless. His fury immediately soared, and he directly challenged Chu Chunxing. You aren't qualified to challenge me. I am an alchemist, while you have already become a flame cultivator. You're already far below me in terms of status. A good-looking man with shoulder-length hair sneered from amongst the crowd. The people around him immediately retreated, and a few of the inner disciples stared at him with a look of disgust. That was the Chu Chunxing who used his looks to survive in the world. In truth, with Chu Chunxing's talent, if it wasn't for the backing of the Divine Shield Alliance, he would probably have long since fallen to the bottom of the rankings and been kicked out of Pill Valley. This pretty boy specialized in picking out inexperienced but talented women from the inner sect. But with the Divine Shield Alliance behind him, no one dared to expose him to those women. However, everyone who knew about him hated him. Chu Chunxing sneered. Suddenly, he sent a spiritual message to Long Chen. Do you want to know what I said to Duan Tianxiao that day? It wasn't much of anything. I just looked back on our experiences and the details of our romance. I then made a comparison to some other women. They were such beautiful memories. I didn't expect her to be so narrow-minded, sigh. But all of a sudden, the martial stage shook. After killing Luo Xiao, it was sending Long Chen out. Coincidentally, the exit and the entrance to the martial stage were not the same places. Long Chen was transported to a place less than 3,000 meters from Chu Chunxing. In that instant, Chu Chunxing's expression changed and he turned to flee. Once he was outside, he'd definitely be safe, because there were guards outside the martial arena, but not inside. Just at this moment, someone intentionally blocked his path. They crashed into each other. Are you blind? Why would you crash into me? That person was an inner disciple. After blocking Chu Chunxing's path, he acted like it was his fault. But he was actually trying to stop Chu Chunxing. Many people hated him and wished for Long San to get rid of this trash. Chu Chunxing's expression once more changed as he felt a terrifying killing intent lock him down. That killing intent made it so he couldn't move. A hand suddenly pierced through his back and ripped out his beating heart. An icy voice rang out from behind him. How curious! How could garbage like you also have a heart? And your blood's even red? The hand shot forward like a blade, splitting Chu Chunxing apart. Long Chen pulled. Your guts are a bit small. That doesn't make sense. After doing so many heartless things, how could your guts be so small? Well, people say the guts and the liver are connected, so let's see your liver. Sorry, my anatomy's not so good. It seems this is your spleen? Long Chen's hands were bloody, but curiously, none of the surrounding disciples felt any pity. Instead, they felt like their hatred was finally being vented. Long San, tear apart this scum of Pill Valley. This bastard should be cut into 1,000,000 pieces. Seeing female disciples being seduced by this bastard one by one had made them hate him to the bone a long time ago. Right now, watching Long San torture him allowed them to finally vent. Long San, stop. Release Chu Chunxing, otherwise dash. Just at this moment, Jiang Zijuan led a group of people over. Just as Chu Chunxing saw Jiang Zijuan and a sliver of hope appeared within him, runes circulated around Long Chen's arm, blowing apart his body. Chu Chunxing only had a head left. Senior apprentice brother Zijuan, save dash. Long Chen punched Chu Chunxing's jaw, making it so he couldn't speak. According to reason, a person would require vocal cords to speak. But an alchemist could make other parts of their bodies rub together to make sounds, so even without a neck, he had managed to cry something out. However, without even a tongue, he couldn't cry for help. Well, perhaps if he knew how to rub his eyelashes together to make noise, he could speak, but he didn't know how to do such a thing. Your daddy Long San never gives in to threats. Do you want to try it again? Long Chen held Chu Chunxing's head. Jiang Zijuan was infuriated. Long San, you are dash buzz? Flames suddenly burst out of Long Chen's hand, wrapping around Chu Chunxing's head. A miserable shriek resounded in everyone's souls. This wasn't the cry of a physical body, but Chu Chunxing's spiritual fluctuations. All the disciples here had powerful spiritual strength and could sense his pain. In truth, the reason why he felt so much pain was because Long Chen's blood-colored flame hid a slight violet color within it. That was the soul-devouring violet flame, something specialized against souls. Chu Chunxing was enduring unspeakable pain at the moment. The people closest to Long Chen felt his pain too clearly and had to fall back. The spiritual resonance allowed them to experience Chu Chunxing's pain. What they were experiencing was just 1/10,000th of what he was feeling, but it still felt like needles were stabbing their souls. Long San, you're courting death. Jiang Zijuan suddenly extended a hand, and a flame spear appeared. 9 flowers materialized behind his back as he summoned the peak manifestation of a celestial. 9 flowers manifest the heavenly Daos. When Jiang Zijuan summoned his manifestation, every disciple here turned pale, unable to even move. They were all suppressed by this heavenly Dao energy. Jiang Zijuan's spear shot toward Long Chen, looking as though it could envelop heaven and earth. There was nowhere for Long Chen to dodge. Long Chen's expression changed. He found that Jiang Zijuan's goal wasn't to save Chu Chunxing, but to kill him. Long Chen tossed the head toward Jiang Zijuan, but before it could even get close to him, the pressure emitting from the spear blew it apart. Die! Jiang Zijuan's spear possessed an apocalyptic power as it pierced toward Long Chen. Long Chen's heart shook. Right now, he couldn't reveal too much power, or it would draw suspicion. But if he didn't, he wouldn't be able to block this attack. Bang! Just as Long Chen was caught in an impossible situation, a jade-like hand grabbed the tip of the spear, and its terrifying heavenly Dao energy instantly vanished. Pill Fairy! All the disciples let out startled cries. The person who had appeared was a peerless beauty, someone who looked like an immortal in the mortal world, the Pill Fairy Yu Qingxian. Normally, the Pill Fairy was gentle and refined, but now that she was holding Jiang Zijuan's flame spear, she looked like a completely different person. An indescribable Dao charm was present around her. Her beauty had made her seem friendly before, but now there was an immortal charm around her that made others feel like looking at her was a blasphemy. Long Chen came to a sudden realization. No wonder Pill Valley's disciples called her the Pill Fairy. It was because of her current air. Just as the Pill Fairy intervened, Elder Zhu, who was hidden in the crowd, silently slipped away. From the moment Long Chen had attacked Chu Chunxing, he had been sent by Zhuo Tianxiang. Long Chen was their important chess piece and he couldn't be damaged. However, Elder Zhu hadn't expected the Pill Fairy to come and stop Jiang Zijuan. This was outside everyone's expectations. Qing Xianyu, Jiang Zijuan was startled and infuriated. He hadn't expected the person to ruin such a good thing for him would be the Pill Fairy. The karma you sow is the karma you reap. The mistakes a person makes have to be borne by them eventually. Some people are just fated to die, and no one can stop it. Back then, I said that no one was to bring up this matter again. Duan Tianxiao was a victim, and I didn't want anyone else to harm her. Jiang Zijuan, you've really disappointed me. Just because there's competition, does it mean that you can use any despicable and shameless means? The Pill Fairy shook her head, a hint of disgust in her eyes. Qingxian, listen to my explanation. Seeing that disgust, Jiang Zijuan hastily tried to explain. There's nothing to explain. Even if everyone's opinions are different and there are multiple sides, is that a reason to harm innocent people who are ultimately all a part of Pill Valley? Go back. I won't let you use Chu Chunxing as an excuse to kill Long San, said the Pill Fairy. Qingxian, do you know what you're doing? Have you forgotten your standing? Why are you always biased toward Long San? Jiang Zijuan almost went insane and asked if she had fallen for him. Although he hadn't said it in the end, the meaning was clear enough that everyone here heard it. The Pill Fairy was a goddess in the hearts of all the male disciples of Pill Valley. She was loved and revered, but all of them knew they weren't a match for such a goddess. To stand by her side was a blasphemy. Being able to look at her from a distance was enough for them. Jiang Zijuan was extremely handsome and an alchemy genius, his talent only second to the Pill Fairy's. He was on the same level as Dan Yanxue and Kendongza, who were all rank 9 celestials. In every way, Jiang Zijuan was a dragon amongst men. Although all the disciples felt a bit bitter about it, they had no choice but to admit that only someone like Jiang Zijuan was qualified to pursue the Pill Fairy. After all, they were from the same faction, and that closeness benefited him. Furthermore, his qualifications were truly high. Jiang Zijuan was always the one who stood beside the Pill Fairy, and many people had long since started viewing them as a couple. But now, the Pill Fairy had had a falling out with Jiang Zijuan over Long San. For Jiang Zijuan to now say such a thing, They instantly understood that Jiang Zijuan had been acting completely in vain. I will always stand on the side of Pill Valley, on the side of Lord Brahma and fallen Day Knight. I'm already fed up with your fighting. If it weren't for that person, I'd have already left Pill Valley to go out on my own. There are many things in Pill Valley I don't want to interfere with. But this matter is something I must oppose. The Pill Fairy stared at Jiang Zijuan with unswerving resolve. Bastard Long San, I'll definitely tear you apart piece by piece. Jiang Zijuan was absolutely enraged. With a furious roar, he transformed into 8 flame bodies that went around the Pill Fairy to attack Long Chen. Fuck, what are you blaming me for? Cursed Long Chen inside. The 8 flame bodies were extremely powerful. This was one of Pill Valley's secret arts. Each flame body was condensed of Pill Flame, and Jiang Zijuan's Earth Flame was even stronger than Long Chen's Berserk Blood Flame. 8 flame bodies were attacking Long Chen now, all of them wielding spears. Even without the Underworld Soul Ghost Curse, he would need to summon his Divine Ring and battle armor to block. However, the only energy he could use was his flame energy. Right now, he couldn't care about being exposed, and he was just about to unleash all the power he could when a jade hand grabbed his arm and dragged him into the air. The 8 flame bodies missed. Seeing the Pill Fairy holding Long Chen's arm in the air, Jiang Zijuan felt like he was going insane. He was totally devoted to the Pill Fairy and had expressed his emotions to her before. However, the Pill Fairy had always maintained a certain distance from him. On the outside, it looked like they were a couple, but the two of them hadn't even touched clothes before. Seeing her holding Long Chen's arm, then looking at Long Chen's handsome appearance, Jiang Zijuan thought of how the Pill Fairy had acted differently toward Long Chen from the start. The first time they had met in the restaurant, the Pill Fairy had asked for his name. That wasn't something she would normally do. Now seeing Long Chen's pleased expression, Jiang Zijuan's hair stood on end, and flames raged in his eyes. The 9 flowers behind him quivered, and flame energy erupted. Run! The surrounding disciples panicked and fled. Jiang Zijuan was borderline insane now. Once his power was fully released, it would kill them all. In truth, Long Chen's expression was one of astonishment at being saved by the Pill Fairy. But in Jiang Zijuan's eyes, he was simply pretending, so he wanted to tear him apart. Jiang Zijuan, I don't want to fight against you. This is meaningless. In front of the berserk Jiang Zijuan, the Pill Fairy was still calm. She shook her head. Today, no matter what, I must kill Long San as revenge for Chu Chunxing. If you think you're right, then you can kill me. Jiang Zijuan roared and put away his 8 flame bodies. His aura explosively grew once more, and flames filled the sky. Long Chen sneered from the Pill Fairy's side. If you want to kill me, just be direct. Is there a need to find an excuse that not even a child would believe? Chu Chunxing isn't your father, so why are you so angry? This life of mine should have been lost 3 years ago in the stomach of a sea demon. It can be said that everything after that is just a bonus for me. If you want to kill me, then come. Isn't the worst case just dying? Other than a god, who doesn't die? Since it'll happen sooner or later, why live as a coward? In my eyes, you Jiang Zijuan are a spineless coward, a pitiful insect, a hypocrite with the face of a human but the heart of a beast. Even when doing something wrong, you have to find such a grand excuse, a dignified reason. Perhaps people who don't know you will be fooled, but considering you act like this every day in the same sect, who do you think you're deceiving? The more hypocritical you are, the more others dislike you. So naturally, no woman would like someone like you. Long Chen's words were like poison arrows piercing Jiang Zijuan's heart. They completely tore through his hypocritical disguise. The worst part was that he said it in front of the Pill Fairy. This was completely unacceptable to the prideful Jiang Zijuan. Long San, if I don't kill you, I, Jiang Zijuan, swear I'm not human, roared Jiang Zijuan, charging forward. Just at this moment, a barrier of light appeared, forcing Jiang Zijuan back. A stern-faced elder appeared in the sky. Qingxian greets Elder Rongxian. The Pill Fairy bowed slightly. The elder nodded. He said icily to Jiang Zijuan, the right and wrong of this matter is not decided by you. How can you act like this? Elder Rongxian, Long San, he dash. We saw everything. You were lacking calm when handling this matter, and you didn't have any of the characteristics necessary for a leader. Go and face the wall for 3 days. The elder waved his hand. Jiang Zijuan's expression became exceedingly ugly. But it seemed that he was afraid of this elder Rongxian, and so he didn't dare to make a sound. With a final vicious glare at Long Chen, he left. Once he left, elder Rongxian turned to Long Chen. Long San, your temper is out of hand. You've broken the rules, and now dash. Long San truly is young and impetuous, but it was Chu Chunxing who intentionally infuriated him. His words were toxic, and he is at fault. Long San was wrong in killing him, but his heart was thinking for Pill Valley. He removed the scourge to protect Pill Valley's dignity. Although it doesn't make up for what he has done, I feel like the only problem is that Long San is too impetuous and not calm enough. He doesn't have any of the characteristics necessary for a leader. So Long San, go and face the wall for 3 days. Another elder appeared. Behind him were Zhuo Tianxiang, Qin Dongzi, and Dan Yanxue. Clearly, this elder was also a grand elder, or he wouldn't be able to say such words. It was obvious that this elder Rongxian had wanted to expel Long Chen from Pill Valley just now, but before he could, this elder interrupted, alleviating his punishment to the point where he only had to face the wall for 3 days, the same punishment as Jiang Zijuan. Of course, this is just a suggestion. After all, for such a major thing, it would be wrong for me to decide everything on my own. I feel like it would be best for the Grand Elders to hold a meeting and investigate this matter to its roots. After all, that girl Duan Tianxiao died in our Pill Valley, and we have to give the dead an explanation. What do you say, Elder Rongxian? The new elder smiled. Elder Rongxian's expression sank slightly. If the other side investigated the matter of Duan Tianxiao to the end, they would be unable to do anything to Long San. With a cold snort, Elder Rongxian said that they could take their time deciding this matter and left. Take care. The Pill Fairy looked at Long Chen with a complicated expression. In the end, she only said 2 thought-provoking words before leaving. He had killed Luo Xiao on the martial stage and then killed Chu Chunxing outside the martial stage in 1 day, killing 2 of the Divine Pill Hall's disciples. Long San's name instantly shook Pill Valley. Just as everyone thought that he would be either expelled from Pill Valley or heavily punished at least, he reappeared in front of everyone, swaggering about as arrogantly as ever. In fact, he was now even more domineering than before. Other than Dan Yanxue, Qin Dongzi, and a few other exceptions, no one could call him Long San. They had to call him Master Long San. The current Long San was truly an overlord in the Divine Pill Hall. Anyone he looked at would quiver. There were few people in Pill Valley who would dare to provoke him now. A certain phrase began to spread amongst Pill Valley's disciples. Provoke a Yama King rather than provoke Master Long San. That was because a recording of Long San killing Luo Xiao and Chu Chunxing had reached every one of the disciples' hands. The viciousness he had displayed when killing Chu Chunxing was especially terrifying. These disciples were mostly alchemists. Even if some were switching to flame cultivators, only a few of them had ever experienced a bloody battle. Therefore, they were completely shaken by Long Chen's methods. By killing Chu Chunxing, Long Chen had broken the rules. But there was the radical faction protecting him. Furthermore, when the Divine Pill Hall's disciples voted on the matter, practically all the neutral disciples expressed their support for Long San for killing Chu Chunxing. As a result, this matter wasn't able to cause any trouble for him. The Divine Pill Hall's disciples were able to sway Pill Valley's decisions with their votes, and they all supported Long San. One reason was because Chu Chunxing was absolute trash and his death delighted them, but another reason was because of the Pill Fairy. The Pill Fairy had actually had a falling out with Jiang Zijuan just for Long San. That already expressed her position. In truth, although the Pill Fairy stood on the side of the conservative faction, she had her own views. She would definitely not blindly follow the conservative faction in every one of their decisions. She always judged whether something was right or wrong from her own view and acted accordingly. Thus, everyone in Pill Valley respected her, even the opposing Divine Spear Alliance's disciples. They didn't view her as an enemy. The Pill Fairy possessed a unique status and position amongst Pill Valley's disciples. They respected her, not because of her appearance, not because of her talent, and not because of her power, but because she possessed her own charisma that could make people follow her blindly. The Pill Fairy stood by Long San's side, and so the neutral disciples would definitely also support him. As for the Divine Spear Alliance's disciples, that went without saying. Who would dare to not support him? As for the Divine Shield Alliance, even if they all voted against him, it was useless. That was because even if all the people of the Divine Spear Alliance and Divine Shield Alliance were added up, they would only make up a third of the Divine Pill Hall's disciples. The other 2/3 were neutral disciples. Long Chen spent 3 days imprisoned, and after eating some medicine his bedeviled appearance improved a great deal. Elder Zhu had him relax for 2 days and made him stop training. It wasn't that Elder Zhu was worried about his foundation growing unstable. Instead, he was worried that Long Chen's confidence was inflating too much. A heart devil was something difficult to control once it formed. He took advantage of when he was suppressed by Jiang Zijuan's pressure, the pressure of a rank 9 celestial, to make him calm down and temper his arrogance. Otherwise, if he continued being so arrogant, he wouldn't listen to other people's orders and would ruin their plans. That was why he gave him 2 days of vacation. Long Chen was very obedient and acted like he had received a setback and began to adjust his condition. In truth, after killing Chu Chunxing, he had completely figured out Zhuo Tianxiang's plans for him. From Elder Zhu's words, he knew that these bastards were preparing to use him as a one-time use weapon. He sighed. Having acted to this extent truly hadn't been easy. After having to endure for so long, then having to act stupid and then crazy, he was finally getting closer to his target. During this time, sometimes Long Chen wouldn't even recognize himself. If Boss Bao, the old man, and the others were to know he had been acting like this, they might directly beat him to death. Long Chen was in the midst of feeling these emotions when he suddenly heard a sobbing sound. At this time, Long Chen had unconsciously walked out of the Divine Pill Hall's region and come to the inner sect. He was currently walking along a small path far from the main path. He was near the end of this small path, and the sobbing sounds were coming from the end. This was an extremely remote location that few people would come to. Long Chen was curious and took a look. The sobbing was coming from a thick underbrush. It was very light. It seemed whoever was sobbing was doing their best to hold back. But Long Chen still heard it. The underbrush wasn't that high, and he saw a girl hiding within it. Her arms wrapped around her legs, with her head resting between her knees as she cried. "Little sister, why are you crying? Who bullied you?" Seeing that frail little girl made Long Chen think of the pitiful Duan Tianxiao. His voice softened quite a bit. The girl immediately jumped upon hearing someone's voice. She shuddered and raised her head. When she saw it was Long Chen, she turned completely pale and no longer dared to sob. She was only 13 years old, and her face still had the immaturity of a child. But she was very beautiful. Her eyes were bright, and her fair face was contrasted by her cherry lips. Seeing Long Chen, she was so terrified that she couldn't even make a sound. She wanted to run but didn't dare to. She just stared at Long Chen with shock. "Am I so terrifying?" Long Chen bitterly smiled. He didn't feel like his appearance was that frightening. "Master Long San, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to disturb you, the girl cried with terror. So it turned out that his name was so resounding that it could even make a child cry. He smiled and comforted her. "Little sister, don't be afraid. Big bro isn't a bad person. What happened? Tell your big brother who bullied you, and your big brother will immediately cut their head off and give it to you as a toy." Either Long Chen's words were truly amusing or his voice sounded comforting. Either way, seeing the warmth in his eyes, the girl felt that this overlord of Pill Valley wasn't as terrifying as she had imagined. "Master Long San, don't call me Master Long San. You can call me Brother Long. Tell me who bullied you and I'll go cut off their head. It's been 3 days since I've done anything, and I don't know if I've fallen out of practice." Long Chen smiled. Although he was talking about killing someone, his smile was warm. The girl felt a burst of warmth in her heart. "Brother Long, she had only just opened her mouth when tears streamed down her face. She once more became choked with sobs. Thank you, big brother. It's been a long time since anyone spoke to me and treated me well. Hey, don't cry. Talk to your big brother. I'll help you get revenge. With big brother protecting you, no one will dare to bully you. Long Chen patted his chest confidently. He also patted his butt and sat down in front of her. I just have to hide from the bully, so it's fine. However, I encountered a bottleneck and can't advance. My mom and dad worked so hard to raise me, expending so much blood and sweat for me. I'm carrying the hopes of my entire family, but I'm too stupid and have been stuck at this bottleneck for over a month without the slightest progress. I'm too stupid, I'm a failure. The girl clenched her hands, her nails digging into her skin so hard that she bled. She clearly hated herself for being useless. Long Chen sighed deeply. This girl was only 13 years old, but her cultivation base had already reached the Xiantian realm. Based on the heavenly Tao fluctuations coming from her, she was probably a rank 6 celestial. At such an age, she was already an inner disciple of Pill Valley. She was practically a demon-class genius. But who would have thought that behind such a bright figure was a concealed weak heart? Perhaps in the eyes of her parents and her family, she was their pride. But a thoughtful and smart child had to endure their own bitterness. The smarter a child, the more hopes would rest on them and the more pressure they would be under. Just because she was smart, did she have to carry a greater burden? Parents often had to give more attention to their children that weren't smart, that didn't understand why they had to work hard. So they pushed all their hopes onto their smart children. Was that fair? Little sister, don't worry. Just tell me what bottleneck you encountered. Big brother is an alchemy expert, and even the pill fairy wants to learn my alchemy arts. If you don't believe me, you can go ask her. In order to make the girl trust him, Long Chen's old habit resurfaced and he began to brag a bit. Really? The girl might be an alchemy genius, but she was still an inexperienced, naive child. She looked at Long Chen with shock. Of course, it's precisely because I taught her a few peerless techniques that she stood by my side when I killed that Chu Chunxing, lied Long Chen without batting an eye. Big brother, you're amazing. Even the pill fairy has asked you for advice? Then you definitely have to help me. This lass was still a little girl and instantly believed him. She pulled on his arm excitedly as if she had run into her savior. It's no problem. Alchemy problems aren't even problems in front of me. This time Long Chen wasn't bragging. In terms of alchemy, he was truly unrivaled. Big brother, when I'm condensing the pills and my spiritual strength merges with my pill flame, how am I supposed to balance the two and control them separately in order to increase the chances of succeeding with the refinement? Asked the little girl. This is very simple. There are 7 ways to do this, but I'll only explain 3 simple ones. Listen well. This question might be a conundrum to others, but it could not be more simple for Long Chen. The girl was incredibly excited. The bottleneck that had perplexed her for so long was instantly broken. Big brother, I'm going home to refine pills. I can't go into the divine pill hall, so you have to come out and come find me, Wan Qing. Don't forget to play with me in the future. The girl learned quickly, and she refused to waste any time. She ran off to digest Long Chen's theories. Long Chen smiled and sighed. There really were no lazy geniuses. Master Long San, your theories are so profound. Can I also get some pointers? Suddenly, a gentle voice rang out behind Long Chen, and his smile instantly turned stiff. When he saw the pill fairy smiling at him, even with his thick skin, he felt his face burning. Hee, pill fairy, why would you come here? Said Long Chen awkwardly. It seemed that she had heard everything he had said to Wan Qing. In other words, she had heard his bragging about how she even came to him for pointers. He had truly embarrassed himself this time. However, what made his heart shake was the fact that the pill fairy's cultivation base was absolutely terrifying. He hadn't sensed her existence at all. It had to be known that within Pill Valley, his nerves were always stretched taut because he couldn't expose any holes. His spiritual perception was pushed to its peak constantly, but he still couldn't sense her. It was like the pill fairy had merged with heaven and earth. Standing there, she was like an ordinary mortal. He wasn't even able to sense her spiritual fluctuations or heavenly Tao energy. Long San, don't be nervous. I just have a few things I want to discuss with you. I heard that you came here to the inner sect, so I also came. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop on you. The pill fairy smiled. The smile was like a lily blooming, making him feel like a spring breeze was blowing by. Cough, that's fine. I still have to thank you for what you did last time, or I'd probably have been expelled from Pill Valley. There's a pavilion nearby, we can go and sit there. Long Chun pointed toward a distant pavilion. The pill fairy nodded and walked beside him. She gently pulled back some stray hair that had blown over her forehead. Her gentle movements contained a grace that moved Long Chen. Even though he had seen plenty of beauties, he still felt a unique aura from the pill fairy. The pavilion was situated at the peak of a hill. From here, they could overlook the river below them. The scenery was not bad. You don't need to be so courteous. Even if I didn't interfere, you would have been fine. Furthermore, you have such a powerful backer. No one would be able to expel you just for killing Chu Chunxing. The pill fairy looked at the scenery, her eyes shining like stars in the night, yet also like gems in a deep sea. No matter how you put it, I still have to thank you. Long Chen smiled. I should be the one thanking you. When you killed Chu Chunxing, you gave me an excuse to vent my dissatisfaction. I've been feeling much better since that day, said the pill fairy. Oh, then if you want to thank me, you can just treat me to a meal, joked Long Chen. The pill fairy smiled. She changed the subject. The methods you taught that girl were very marvelous. I didn't expect you to be such a master of the pill Tao. I can't accept such praise, said Long Chen modestly. But he knew she had more to say. With your spiritual strength, talent, and comprehension skills, you can walk even further on the pill Tao. In fact, your accomplishments wouldn't be any lower than my own. Transforming into a flame cultivator is digging your own grave. As expected, the pill fairy only got to her point now. Long Chen sighed, a person can't always do what they want. I'm just a country bumpkin with no background. Even you, the pill fairy who is worshipped by countless disciples, a godlike existence, also have a similar helpless expression. Some things are just out of our control. Long Chen had figured out the rough situation in Pill Valley. And through their few encounters, he also had a basic understanding of this pill fairy, which was why he said what he said. A glimmer of sadness appeared in her beautiful eyes. She sighed, Long San, they're using you. Can you not tell? I can tell. But at least I have some value this way. That's a good thing. Now, I get whatever I want. What's so bad about it? Long Chen acted like he didn't understand. The pill fairy turned to stare into his eyes. Her eyes were completely calm, like the surface of a lake that could reflect anything. Pill fairy, you shouldn't stare at me like this, or I'll be embarrassed. Long San, you're a curious person. I can't see through you, but I know you're smart. They're using you now, but once you're no longer valuable to them, they'll toss you aside without a second thought. I won't ask you to join the Divine Shield Alliance, but I hope you can join the neutral faction and not help either side, said the pill fairy. It's not possible. Protector Zhua supported me, and I swore I would repay him. Before repaying him, I can't leave him. In truth, when Long Chen said he had to repay him, he was thinking of something completely different. But the pill fairy didn't know this. She was silent for a moment before bitterly smiling. It seems I'm not good at persuading people. My first attempt is a failure. I know you're being kind, and I'll remember this. Speaking of which, can I ask you a few things? Asking is harmless. Then I want to ask, why is your conservative faction so stubborn? Pill Valley clearly has the ability to grow even stronger, so why do they still cower? Asked Long Chen. You really know how to ask questions. Your first one is the most difficult one and the reason why Pill Valley is split into two factions. In truth, it's not that we're conservative, but that certain people have forgotten the meaning behind Pill Valley's existence. Pill Valley is situated outside the rest of the world. It has its own mission. But some people are selfish and greedy and want to stretch their hands into this chaotic world. That's not the meaning behind Pill Valley's existence, and doing so would be very dangerous. It would influence the entire balance of the Martial Heaven continent, and Pill Valley might even be drawn into a cataclysm because of it. But sometimes, people simply refuse to be reasonable and see the truth. So this world is fraught with struggle. What could bring Pill Valley danger? Isn't Pill Valley the strongest power in the Martial Heaven continent? Asked Long Chen. Sorry, this relates to Pill Valley's secrets, so forgive me for not being able to answer, said the Pill Fairy. Long Chen's heart pounded. It seemed he still knew too little about the Martial Heaven continent. Something that could even threaten Pill Valley? What power was that? Or was it the danger zones? Many thanks. Although our standpoints aren't the same, I sincerely wish that we can be friends, said Long Chen, who cared about helping Zhuo Tianxiang. He had only come to get the Nirvana scripture. He had no intention of being enemies with the Pill Fairy, who was a kind and beautiful person. To be friends with Master Long San is the fortune of 3 lifetimes. The Pill Fairy found it funny to call him Master Long San. Cough, that name is just to intimidate some small fries, said Long Chen awkwardly. It's getting late. We should go back to the Divine Pill Hall together, said the Pill Fairy. Long Chen was startled. He immediately understood what she was intending. Being able to walk with a fairy is my blessing. Long Chen knew that the Pill Fairy was doing this to give a warning to Zhuo Tianxiang and the others. By walking with him, it would make Zhuo Tianxiang and the others nervous. It was also a kind of protection for him. It was telling Zhuo Tianxiang that if they did something to Long Chen, he would have a place on her side. If it was someone else doing this, Long Chen would definitely think they were trying to sow dissension. But he knew the Pill Fairy wouldn't do such a thing. He walked alongside her, talking and laughing on the way. Long Chen's mouth had plenty of tricks that could make a person laugh. Even the graceful and refined Pill Fairy couldn't stop laughing. Long San. Long Chen and the Pill Fairy had only just arrived in the Divine Pill Hall and were about to part ways when a voice rang out. It was Jiang Zijuan. Flames were about to spit out of his eyes as he glared at Long Chen. Long Chen shook his head, knowing that this fellow's jealous nature was too strong. Long Chen hadn't even thought of such things with the Pill Fairy. He already had too many beauties, and he knew when to be satisfied. Long Chen didn't even look at him and returned to his residence. He saw Elder Zhu was already waiting for him. It was unknown if he was worried about Long Chen switching sides or not, but he directly requested Long Chen to go into seclusion and continue cultivating flame magical arts. He was actually in a greater rush than Long Chen to strengthen his body. This delighted Long Chen, as it was a good thing. The earth flame essence he was absorbing to strengthen his body actually didn't affect his body at all. The essence was all absorbed by Huolong, while he gradually released the power of his original physical body. It just looked like he was getting stronger from the earth flame essence. Elder Zhu, this time, I want you to drown me with earth flame essence. I want to keep getting stronger so I can kill that bastard Jiang Zijuan. I'll make the name Master Long San shake Pill Valley. Long Chen directly lay in lava and let out a heaven-shaking roar. This lava was the earth flame essence, and was just what Huolong needed. 4 holes opened on the sides of the lava pool, and earth flame essence gushed out, truly drowning Long Chen. Flame runes revolved around Long Chen as he crazily absorbed the earth flame essence. Huolong almost cried out in excitement. Previously, Long Chen had been refusing to let it absorb it too quickly. But now Long Chen let it devour as much as possible, the more the better. After 3 whole days, Long Chen had absorbed an ocean's worth of earth flame essence, completely sucking up every bit of Zhuo Tianxiang's stock. What delighted Elder Zhu was that when Long Chen was enveloped by his flame energy, a punch from the latter could make even the former cough up blood. Long Chen's monstrous physical body delighted Zhuo Tianxiang and the others. Long Chen ended his seclusion, and the first thing he did was go to the inner sect to see that girl Wanqing. However, just as he walked out, he suddenly saw a group of people bringing a lanky old man into Zhuo Tianxiang's room. An icy light flashed in Long Chen's eyes. Xianjizi. Although he only got a glance, Long Chen still recognized this bastard. He hadn't expected him to come to Pill Valley. According to his understanding, Li Tianxian had arranged for this bastard's true face to be exposed. He was like a rat others were trying to catch. However, he was very slippery, and as soon as things had turned sour for him, he had even abandoned the Grand Han Ancient Nation's heavenly fate pavilion that he had worked so hard to build up. No one knew where he was hiding. It was like he had vanished from this world. Now seeing him, Long Chen had to admit that this bastard's heaven-peering arts were profound. If he managed to calculate that he was at Pill Valley, he would be doomed. In truth, Long Chen didn't know that Xian Jizi didn't dare to directly calculate anything about him. In the past, all his calculations had always been toward the people around Long Chen, which allowed him to infer Long Chen's general position and movements. That kind of inference couldn't even count as heaven-peering arts. It was more like a judgment of human nature. It was because of this that Xian Jizi's calculations had gone awry at Devil Spirit Mountain when Li Tianxian had come. When it came to understanding the human heart, Xian Jizi was a far cry from Li Tianxian. However, Long Chen didn't know this, and so he became apprehensive, not knowing what this old bastard was planning. He was lost in thought for a while and then suddenly laughed at himself. When had he become so stupid? If Xian Jizi had come for him, the 9-star Hegemon body art would have sensed his hostility just now. Since there was no reaction from the 9-star Hegemon body art, it meant he wasn't targeting him. Long Chen didn't show any of this on his face and continued heading to the inner sect. But as he got close to Wan Qing's residence, his expression gradually became gloomy. Wan Qing was an inner disciple, and she didn't have her own residence. She lived in a shared immortal cave with dozens of other people. They all had their own rooms for secluded cultivation and alchemy. Right now, dozens of people were standing in front of the entrance, blocking Wan Qing outside. A pill furnace and various medicinal ingredients were scattered on the ground, clearly having been thrown out. Wan Qing was trembling and unable to hold back her tears. But she clenched her lips and refused to make a sound, silently gathering her things. "Girl, if you want to die by joining that devil Long San, go by yourself and don't implicate us. Please find a different place to live," said a disciple frostily. The other disciples were also apathetic to her plight. They watched coldly as that small figure silently gathered the things on the ground. They didn't have the slightest sympathy. Instead, they seemed almost delighted. Tears streamed down Wan Qing's little face, but she refused to make a sound. Just as she was gathering her things, a pair of hands helped her pick them up. Seeing a pair of warm eyes looking at her, she immediately collapsed into Long Chen's embrace and began to bawl. It was like all her stored-up resentment could finally be released. "Big brother, good job. A person must be strong and not lower their head to anyone." Long Chen rubbed her head comfortingly. His opinion of her grew after seeing how staunch she could be. His icy gaze swept over these disciples in front of the immortal cave. They were only at the Xiantian and Sea expansion realms, and their hair immediately stood on end when he looked at them. They felt like the temperature in the air had dropped all of a sudden. It was like a butcher's blade was pointed against their heads. With just a thought from him, they would die. These disciples were alchemists, and some had never even fought against others. How could they possibly endure Long Chen's killing intent? The number of people he had killed in his life was something he couldn't even remember anymore. His killing intent was the result of him piling mountains of corpses from both the righteous and corrupt paths. Rivers of blood had flowed because of him, and this killing intent almost made those disciples faint. Some of them involuntarily knelt on the ground, terrified. They begged, "Master Long San, it's not our fault. It was it was me." "So what?" Just at this moment, a group of people walked over. They were from the Divine Shield Alliance, and their leader was Jiang Zijuan. However, the current Jiang Zijuan no longer appeared as handsome as before. His previous calm air had been replaced with envy and killing intent. Seeing his current appearance, Wan Qing clutched Long Chen's arm and hid behind him, quivering. She had never seen such a scene before. Long Chen patted her gently, expressing that she didn't need to be afraid. He faced Jiang Zijuan. "Jiang Zijuan, I always thought you were human. I didn't expect that I was so wrong. I overestimated you." Long Chen felt contempt for this person, who was the commander of the Divine Shield Alliance. His integrity was so lacking that he was even willing to target an innocent child. This person was an idiot. Jiang Zijuan liked the Pill Fairy. This was common knowledge in Pill Valley. If he wanted to target Long Chen, he should have used brilliant and above-board tactics to beat him. How could he do such a thing? This would only make the Pill Fairy loathe him even more. Could it be that this Jiang Zijuan had practiced alchemy to the point that the rest of his head had rotted? He was basically insane. No one had been able to convince him otherwise, and he had sent people to spy on Long Chen's actions. After hearing that he had formed a slight relationship with a girl, he had directly sent people to suppress her. Kicking her out of her home was his retaliation against Long Chen. Jiang Zijuan had been consumed by his envy. No matter how big or small the matter was, as long as it could harm Long Chen in some way, he would do it. That was the only way for him to comfort himself. As for the consequences, he was no longer able to understand what those were. That was because he felt that if he didn't release his anger, he would go insane. Overestimated me? A country bumpkin like you isn't even qualified to look at me. You're only fit to crawl beneath my feet. Long San, there's always a price for angering me. Was Duan Tianxiao's death painful for you? Hee hee, I feel like this girl's also not bad. 13, 14 years old, that's about enough. Jiang Zijuan looked at Wan Qing with a malicious light in his eyes that made her not dare to look back at him. Long Chen took a deep breath to adjust his mood. Breathing deeply is useless. Long San, having offended me, just wait to be played to death. Jiang Zijuan laughed maniacally. Long Chen ignored him. Instead, there was a question in his mind. Long Chen, are you still the old Long Chen? Long Chen slowly raised his left hand. A cold light flashed as a dagger cut across his palm. Fresh blood dripped out, condensing into a rune. Big brother! Wan Qing jumped and let out a startled cry. She didn't know what he was doing. A badge appeared in Long Chen's left hand. This was his badge, which showed his status as part of the Divine Pill Hall. He moved it toward his left hand. This was the most sacred blood challenge amongst Pill Valley's disciples. Using one's essence blood as the oath, the rune represented that this fight was being witnessed by their gods. Once this battle started, no one in Pill Valley could stop it, not even the Valley Master. However, this blood oath could only be initiated by someone whose cultivation base was lower than the one they were challenging. Furthermore, the precondition was that they had irreconcilable conflicts between them. Once those conditions were met, the life and death stage would be opened. This life and death stage was extremely terrifying. There was a time limit of 2 hours. If both sides were still alive at that time, they would be killed by the formation. This blood challenge hadn't been initiated in Pill Valley in the past 100 years. As a result, all the people who knew what he was planning to do let out startled cries. Just as his badge was about to touch his blood rune, a jade hand lightly pressed against Long Chen's palm, shattering his blood rune. Pill Fairy! Unexpectedly, the Pill Fairy had come and destroyed Long Chen's blood rune, preventing the challenge. Why bother? You'd clearly be beaten and killed, so why let your emotions get the better of you? The Pill Fairy looked at Long Chen with a complicated expression. Long Chen shook his head. You don't understand the world of men. Sometimes, despite knowing the result, you still have to do it. It's not for any other reason other than that we're men. With the underworld soul ghost curse, Long Chen was unable to bring out his true power. He couldn't use his divine ring or battle armor. Just relying on his flame energy, his chance of killing a rank 9 celestial like Jiang Zijuan was less than 10%. Long Chen had noticed that after being afflicted by the underworld soul ghost curse, he was becoming more and more unfamiliar with himself. He was growing less confident in himself and even starting to lack the courage to risk his life. He had lost his old, sharp self. That Long Chen always charged forward without regard for anything. He needed to find himself again, so he had planned on forcing himself this time. Otherwise, even if he could cultivate the second volume of the Nirvana scripture, he would have lost his undefeatable Tao heart. In the end, he would still be crippled. That was the most frightening thing. Thus, he hadn't gotten angry or impetuous. He was forcing himself, forcing away his cowardly side. He couldn't use the excuse of the underworld's soul ghost curse to be a coward. Long San, you're a real warrior. The pill fairy smiled with admiration. This was a true expression of what she was thinking. Then turning toward the girl, she took one of her hands. Little sister, let's go. Big sister will bring you to the divine pill hall. I guarantee no one will bully you again. Yu Qingxian, have you really fallen for this bumpkin? Why must you always go against me for him? Jiang Zijuan let out a furious roar, his eyes about to explode into flames. Long Chen and the pill fairy were each holding one of Wan Qing's hands, as if they were a family. Jiang Zijuan felt insane. Originally, he had been delighted to see Long Chen try to challenge him. He would finally get a chance to kill him. But this good thing had been ruined by the pill fairy. Jiang Zijuan, you are no longer the old you. Your wild ambitions have inflated, and a shadow has been cast over your heart. The Divine Shield Alliance has also lost its old flavor, and I'm powerless to do anything about it. However, I have neither any intention of changing anything, nor am I intentionally going against you. What I'm doing is simply what I want to do. My heart will always be on the side of Pill Valley. So there's no logic in you saying I'm constantly going against you. Furthermore, your actions today have truly disappointed me. Get out of my way. The pill fairy shook her head at the sinister Jiang Zijuan. The pill fairy had neither good nor bad feelings for Jiang Zijuan. But after Long San had come, Jiang Zijuan had changed, becoming foreign and loathsome to her. The matter of Chu Chunxing hounding Duan Tianxiao to death definitely had Jiang Zijuan's shadow behind it. Now Jiang Zijuan had even drawn in an innocent girl because of Long Chen. This was truly unacceptable. If they hadn't spent so many years on the same side, the pill fairy might really become furious with Jiang Zijuan. His actions were just too vile. Long Chen, I'll kill you. All of this is your fault. Flames exploded from Jiang Zijuan, but just at that moment, an icy cold white flame sword pressed against his neck. Jiang Zijuan instantly stood still, and Long Chen was shocked. A sword had appeared in the pill fairy's hands, a sword condensed of white flame runes. The most shocking thing was that this flame, despite incinerating the air around it, contained a strange coldness to it. What is that? Long Chen had never seen such an earth flame. He didn't sense the slightest pressure from it, and yet his hair stood on end. It definitely posed a fatal danger to him. Regretfully, his pill sovereign memories didn't have any information about earth flames. Qingxian, I don't believe you dare to kill me. Jiang Zijuan had a complicated expression as the pill fairy held her sword to his neck. His expression was one combined of anger, pain, and despair. I also don't know if I'll kill you. But if you continue to act like this, then sooner or later, a day when you die to my hands will come. A shadow has consumed your heart, and you've lost the reasoning a normal person should possess. I drew my sword today not to kill you, but to warn you. If you continue on this course, I won't hesitate next time. The white flame sword transformed into runes and merged back into the pill fairy's body. Let's go. The pill fairy pulled on Wan Qing's hand, and she pulled on Long Chen's hand. The three of them walked away, vanishing from everyone's sight. Bang! Jiang Zijuan punched the ground, and a large hole appeared. Jiang Zijuan's face was twisted. Long San, this is all your fault. Sooner or later, I'll crush you into pieces. Just wait, you won't get to be so pleased for long. The pill fairy's residence was a mountain dozens of miles wide. Pavilions dotted the land, while rock gardens and flowing water could be seen everywhere. It was delicate and refined. This was the pill fairy's private residence, a place no outsiders had ever come in. Long Chen and Wan Qing were her first guests. The dark night had descended by now, and the three of them were randomly chatting. In truth, Long Chen and the pill fairy were doing this for Wan Qing. They were afraid this little girl would be frightened by this foreign environment. Big brother, I'm a bit afraid. Wan Qing shook Long Chen's hand suddenly. Wan Qing, don't be afraid. With big sister pill fairy looking after you, no one would dare to bully you. A smart, talented, and hard-working child like you will definitely have great accomplishments in the future. Long Chen patted her head gently. The pill fairy also smiled, implying she didn't need to be afraid. But the girl shook her head. I'm not afraid for myself, I'm afraid for you. Jiang Zijuan's so frightening, what if he kills you? Long Chen's heart warmed. He hadn't expected this girl to already be at the point of considering such things. She was actually worried for him. He patted his chest confidently. Don't worry, you should know that your big brother is the renowned Master Long San. This is a secret, but in truth, your big brother has a supremely mysterious status. Long Chen put on a mysterious appearance. This girl was still a child, so she couldn't tell that he was just messing around. Wow, amazing! Big brother, tell me, what's your secret identity? She asked expectantly. Long Chen put on a show of struggling with indecision and then said, Fine, I'll tell you. But you can't tell anyone else. If my secret is exposed, it'll be bad for me. Yes, I won't tell anyone. Big Sister Pill Fairy won't tell anyone else either, right? Wan Qing tugged the Pill Fairy's hand. Yes, I guarantee I'll keep it secret. The Pill Fairy was also very curious. Long San had another status? Long Chen sighed and looked up at the sky. With a hallowed light to his face, he said, In truth, millions and millions of years ago, this world once had a king divine race within it. They wandered the cosmos, traversing all the various worlds. They could pluck the stars and moon, and sever the ancients from the sky. Seeing Long Chen's solemn appearance, Wan Qing was full of worship. Even the Pill Fairy was drawn in by his story. They were the grandest warriors of the universe, fighting against the forces of evil to protect the entire star field's peace. They had a grand and resounding name, Warriors of the Starry Sky. And in truth, I, Long San, am the descendant of the Warriors of the Starry Sky. I don't know who my parents are, but I know I was sent to this world to carry out my own mission. Yes, my divine mission is to protect this world's righteousness, to cleanse the world of its fighting, to defeat the strong and support the weak, to fight for the kind people of the world. Long Chen clenched his fist, looking like a divine emissary. The Pill Fairy looked from Long Chen's strange appearance to Wan Qing, who was completely enraptured with his story. That worshipful light in her eyes made it so she couldn't hold back her laughter. After laughing, she immediately became embarrassed. Long Chen was clearly trying to amuse the girl, and her laughter immediately threw him off. Sorry, it was my bad. Please, Long San, you can continue with your story. The Pill Fairy contained her laughter. Long Chen was a bit embarrassed. Maybe he had bragged a bit too hard this time. But Wan Qing was still staring at him worshipfully, making him feel at ease. Big brother, does that mean you descended from above the mortal world, just like Big Sister Pill Fairy? No wonder you're both such good people. So you were gods. The little girl looked at him worshipfully. Cough, it's similar, but I'm not from the same race as the Pill Fairy. The Pill Fairy is specialized in refining pills, while I'm a warrior of the starry sky, the universe's #1 warriors. Plucking the stars and moon isn't more difficult than raising a hand. If Jiang Zijuan continues messing around and I get angry, I'll strap him to a shooting star and let him make wishes every day as he flies through the stars. Wan Qing was much more at ease upon hearing him put it this way. Long Chen didn't feel right having a child worry about him. Big brother, you're so amazing. Can I ask you something? The three of them were originally sitting on stone stools, but she suddenly jumped over and hugged Long Chen's neck. Seeing her act so intimately with him, he smiled. If you want anything, just ask. Your big brother will definitely help you get it. If I can't, then your big sister Pill Fairy can definitely do it. Long Chen intentionally gave himself a way out by using the Pill Fairy. She couldn't help but smile, thinking that this Long San was a bit wicked. This is definitely something you can do, said Wan Qing. Alright, tell me. Big brother, can you pluck a shooting star for me? I also want to make wishes every day. Wan Qing reddened slightly and was nervous, afraid Long Chen would refuse. Ah! Long Chen's jaw dropped, and his face turned green. Sorry, I forgot to bring some refreshments. I'll get some fruit right now. The Pill Fairy quickly ran out of the room, but her trembling shoulders sold her out. If Pill Valley's disciples were to learn that he could make the always refined Pill Fairy laugh like this, they would definitely prostrate themselves toward him. "Big brother, please, I really like shooting stars and I really want one," Wan Qing begged. As expected, if you often walked by the river, your shoes would get wet sooner or later. After bragging and bragging and bragging, he had bragged himself to this point. Seeing her begging expression, how could Long Chen possibly refuse? However, he was unable to accomplish this wish of hers. But then he suddenly had a clever thought. "Wan Qing, you want a shooting star, but do you know the origin of shooting stars?" "I don't know." Wan Qing shook her head. The Pill Fairy now came back, holding a tray of fruit. She had recovered her calm, but Long Chen knew that she had gone out to get the fruit as an excuse. After all, she could have just retrieved some from a storage or life ring. There was no need to go to another room. The Pill Fairy placed the tray on a table, and using a handkerchief, she dried an apple-like fruit and handed it to Wan Qing. This fruit was an 8th-tier medicinal ingredient. After eating it, a person would feel completely refreshed. It was something that could be used to nourish the soul. Wan Qing clearly knew just how precious it was, and it took much cajoling and encouragement from the Pill Fairy for her to take it. On the other hand, Long Chen didn't stand on courtesy and instantly took a big bite as if it was his in the first place. The Pill Fairy smiled at this unruliness. It was like there were no rules that could restrict him. But this unruliness seemed innate and was not something dislikable. Instead, it made him seem sincere and trustworthy instead of pretentious. "Long San, I'm also very curious about the origin of shooting stars. Can you tell us?" The Pill Fairy picked up a crystalline grape and placed it in her mouth. She didn't know why, but when she was with him, it felt like there were no rules or etiquette that she had to follow. She could be carefree and chat naturally. "In truth, you aren't aware of it, but the stars above our heads all have people living on them. Some experts control this star field, and those experts are the gods and immortals we talk about. According to my memories, shooting stars are instead called flying stars. They're huge stars in movement and are actually the same as our flying boats. Gods use these flying stars to travel." "Pill Fairy, don't laugh. This is all true." The Pill Fairy was again unable to contain her laughter. But with her previous experience, she managed to stifle it. It was just that holding back was difficult. On the surface, it seemed possible that shooting stars were objects used to travel through the cosmos. After all, the speed at which they flew through space made it seem like they were used for travel. Seeing the Pill Fairy was quiet, Long Chen cleared his throat. "However, Wan Qing, don't worry. I'm not strong enough right now, but once I become a true warrior of the starry sky, I promise to buy you a shooting star to play with." "Shooting stars can be bought?" Wan Qing asked in amazement. "As long as it has substance, it has value and can be bought." Wan Qing actually believed Long Chen's nonsense and obediently nodded. But then she suddenly recalled that she hadn't finished her coursework for today, and she hastily rushed off to study alchemy. The Pill Fairy was unable to bestow her with a disciple badge of the Divine Pill Hall. However, no one had the qualifications to prevent her from accepting a worker. That was because her status was so high. "You really know how to talk nonsense. Even I almost believed it." When Wan Qing was gone and it was just the Pill Fairy and Long Chen, the Pill Fairy finally laughed. "Even I almost believed myself." Long Chen sighed. To be able to brag to the point where even you believed your bragging was also a kind of realm. "Long San, you feel different compared to others. Being with you is interesting. With your humor, wit, and kindness, you should have many girls after you, right?" Now that it was just the two of them, the atmosphere lightened. The Pill Fairy took out a jug of fruit wine and poured it into cups. "I suppose I have many beauties, but even more hot-blooded brothers." Long Chen raised the cup and smelled the fruit wine. It wasn't bad. He actually smelled something familiar about it. He realized that this familiarity reminded him of the Wine God Palace. It seemed that Pill Valley had managed to secretly learn a few things from the Wine God Palace from their cooperation back then. However, The true skills still rested with the Wine God Palace. Long Chen directly told the Pill Fairy the truth. After just their few interactions, he had surprisingly felt that he could completely trust the Pill Fairy. He didn't bother lying to cover his identity. The Pill Fairy stared at him, while Long Chen also surprised himself. The hand with which she was pouring the wine quivered, and her eyes contained shock as well as gratitude. "Thank you for trusting me." A faint redness appeared on her face. Long Chen quickly realized that the Pill Fairy had investigated the background of Long San. Considering the competition between the conservative faction and the radical faction, both sides definitely kept a tight watch over the other. The information behind Long San had probably been memorized by the Pill Fairy. This information was based on Zhuo Tianxiang's investigation into Long Chen. According to his soul search and investigation, Long San didn't have any friends or lovers. For Long Chen to say such a thing now, it was clear that he wasn't concealing anything from the Pill Fairy. Long Chen also didn't know why he would say such a thing. But unexpectedly, this ended up winning him the Pill Fairy's trust. The two of them ended up closer than before. It's strange for me to say this, but for some reason when I first saw you, I felt a kind of familiarity with you. My intuition told me that you weren't a bad person, but you were hiding huge secrets. You should have your own goal in coming to Pill Valley. That's fine. I just hope you won't help them. I'm not saying that because of the conservative faction, but because of Pill Valley and the entire continent. Once they gain power, the entire world will be thrown into chaos, and a rain of blood will pour over the cultivation world. Long San, you're a good person. Otherwise, you would neither get vengeance for Duan Tianxiao, help some random girl, nor entrust your life to someone you don't even know that well. I don't think that we'll be enemies. I'm not asking you to stand on my side, but please don't help them. That would put me in a difficult spot, implored the Pill Fairy. Under her beautiful eyes, even someone with a heart of steel would soften. Thank you as well. I truly do have my own goal here in Pill Valley, and I also don't want to be enemies with you. As for my relationship with them, I'll definitely have to give them an explanation. But I guarantee I won't make things hard on you, promised Long Chen. Long Chen felt that the Pill Fairy was a very kind person. She possessed her own terrifying martial might, but she didn't use that to bully the weak. Moreover, she didn't have the slightest arrogant attitude. Compared to the beauty Dan Yanxue, well, Dan Yanxue wasn't even qualified to be compared to her. The Pill Fairy possessed a natural charismatic air. Although Long Chen didn't agree to leave his faction, his promise still brightened her mood. A gentleman's words can be trusted. Let us clasp hands as our promise. The Pill Fairy extended a pure, jade-like hand. All right, while I'm no gentleman, I definitely won't break my promises. Long Chen also extended a hand. After lightly clasping hands, this oath was fully established. The Pill Fairy clearly became much more relaxed. Long San, if you have any difficulties, you can tell me. As long as I'm capable of it, I'll help you. Long Chen's heart began to pound. The Pill Fairy was Pill Valley's #1 figure amongst the junior generation. Furthermore, her background was terrifying. Perhaps it really was possible for her. I won't hide the truth from you. What I want is to cultivate the second volume of the Nirvana scripture, said Long Chen. Perhaps he could reach his goal through the Pill Fairy instead of being used by Zhuo Tianxiang. To obtain the Nirvana scripture from Zhuo Tianxiang's side would be very difficult. He didn't even know how high his chances were of succeeding. He had always been worried about this. The Pill Fairy knitted her brows and frowned. I have cultivated the second volume of the Nirvana scripture, but I am unable to transmit it to you. Even if I betrayed the teachings of my ancestors and wanted to teach it to you, my cultivation base is not high enough to do so. Long Chen's heart sank. Even the Pill Fairy was powerless to help. Then it seemed it would be even more difficult than he had thought to obtain it from Zhuo Tianxiang. However, the Pill Fairy then said, but don't be disappointed. In just over a month, the Heaven Dragon Flame region will be opened. Once you enter the Heaven Dragon Flame region, you'll have a chance to come into contact with the second volume of the Nirvana scripture. The Heaven Dragon Flame region? What's that? Asked Long Chen, delighted. The Heaven Dragon Flame region is Pill Valley's ancestral land. It is a corner of a broken world and a land of flames. There are earth flame spirit beasts roaming around, and disciples are able to go and try to subdue them. This is a benefit given to disciples once every 3 years. However, only the top 300 disciples of the Divine Pill Hall and the top 500 of the Flame Divine Palace are qualified to enter, said the Pill Fairy. The Flame Divine Palace was something Long Chen knew about. Pill Valley had alchemists and flame cultivators. The Divine Pill Hall was for the best alchemists, while the Divine Flame Palace was where the flame cultivators gathered. Elder Zhu came from the Flame Divine Palace. Within the depths of the Heaven Dragon Flame region is the Flame God Tablet. The second volume of the Nirvana scripture is inscribed on it. However, the tablet's immortal characters are different from the immortal characters most people are familiar with these days. I'm worried that even if you see it, you won't be able to understand what's written, said the Pill Fairy apologetically. Those characters on the tablet were incredibly difficult to understand. The second volume of the Nirvana scripture that Pill Valley used was a translation of that original inscription. But most likely, there was quite a bit of deviation between their translation and the original. The Heaven Dragon Flame region, eh? I'll definitely have to take a look. Thank you, Pill Fairy. To thank you, how about I bring you out to play? Long Chen stood up, prepared to go back to cultivating. He merely tossed out a joke. All right. However, Long Chen's joke wasn't declined by the Pill Fairy. Unexpectedly, she agreed. In the outer regions of Pill Valley, there was a plaza near a river. This was a place where outer disciples would gather. These outer disciples that were geniuses in the outside world were only ordinary here. In the rest of the world, outer disciples weren't very useful. They mostly just used up resources, and when there were too many of them, the sects would kick out a few who had no potential. However, in Pill Valley, even outer disciples could bring them profit. That was because their cultivation relied on refining a large number of medicinal pills. Their profit made up for their consumption. So Pill Valley didn't kick out these outer disciples. Even if their talent was lacking compared to others, they were still alchemists. In fact, anyone who could enter Pill Valley was monstrously talented. But your status depended on just how much of a monster you were. These disciples had to refine pills to exchange for cultivation resources, and Pill Valley had many cultivation rooms with powerful formations that could assist them. However, those rooms weren't free for outer disciples. Outer disciples didn't even get 1/10 of the benefits that inner disciples were blessed with. In fact, there were essentially no benefits. Everything they had was gained through them working hard on their alchemy. Some outer disciples would come to the outer regions of Pill Valley to gather medicinal ingredients. The outskirts of Pill Valley were mostly wild land. But this wild land was actually Pill Valley's medicinal garden. Other than a few special regions with people guarding them though, the rest was just wilderness. That was because some medicinal ingredients could only grow in the wild. If they were planted in a medicinal field, they might be affected by other ingredients, or their growth would be stunted, or they might simply outright die. So the outskirts of Pill Valley had quite a few precious medicines growing. Some were high tier, and some were low tier. Disciples could gather them based on their own requirements. The majority of the medicinal ingredients that disciples practiced their alchemy with were obtained through trading merit points with Pill Valley. Once they refined those medicinal ingredients into pills, they could exchange the pills for more merit points. It was the same as farmers working for landlords. The earth, seeds, and fertilizer all came from the landlord. If you worked hard and managed to grow the crops, then once the various costs were subtracted, you could still make some money. However, this money was based on your own success. Some people who failed too many refinements would even end up owing money. So there would always be a few disciples out gathering medicine. As long as they could gather some rare ones or ones that Pill Valley was currently lacking, they would make a bit of money. They could keep these medicinal ingredients or exchange them. It was very beneficial to everyone. As for this large plaza, it had become a place for outer disciples to trade their excess medicinal ingredients. There were all kinds of medicines displayed. Long Chen and the Pill Fairy were currently strolling through this plaza. But both of them had disguised their faces so others wouldn't be able to recognize them. If they didn't, it would cause a huge disturbance. Thank you, Long San. It's my first time being able to come out and have such a relaxed stroll. At this time, the Pill Fairy had made her face look ordinary and was wearing the robes of an outer disciple. However, her eyes were as enchanting as ever. Long Chen couldn't help but sigh emotionally inside. He had once said that different people had different hardships. Someone like the Pill Fairy, with a majestic status within Pill Valley, wasn't even able to go for a simple stroll. Just what was with this world? Everyone was envious of what others had while not caring about what they possessed themselves. They didn't realize that as they envied others, others also envied them. Through their chatting, Long Chen felt that the Pill Fairy was actually a very pitiable person. She lived under a spotlight, and under it she had to live according to specific standards. She was unable to walk out of this spotlight or even learn what the outside world was like. As long as you want to, I'll accompany you at any time. Long Chen walked alongside the Pill Fairy. Smelling her specific fragrance, he felt a peaceful feeling in his heart. As they were walking, he suddenly paused because he saw a square melon. Hey, little fellow, is this melon of yours sweet? As soon as Long Chen said this, he regretted it. But it was too late. Scram! The disciple holding the melon immediately exploded in fury and walked off. Why was that person so rude? If you wanted to buy his melon, why would he get mad if you asked him if it is sweet? Wondered the Pill Fairy. It was my fault. That's a bitter melon. Long Chen looked at the Pill Fairy awkwardly. Only after speaking had he realized that this was a 6th-tier medicinal ingredient, the earthen bitter melon, something used to expel the accumulated internal heat that was stored up within alchemists. For him to ask if it was sweet or not was definitely asking to be cursed. The Pill Fairy looked at his embarrassed expression and couldn't help but laugh. It was a lovely sound, but it just made Long Chen even more embarrassed. That earthen bitter melon was strange. Some kind of mutation had to have occurred in it. Normally, they would be a light green color, but this one was dark green. Originally, Long Chen had been thinking about buying some snacks for Wan Qing, but instead he ended up in such an awkward position. Are your violet jade cherries sweet? Long Chen pointed to a pile of cherries on a vendor's booth. They are. Can I taste one? No. That vendor's reply was extremely direct. Hey, if I don't try one, how will I know if it's sweet or not? These violet jade cherries are very precious. I'll taste one and you can use my expression to judge whether they're sweet or not, replied the vendor coldly. So, this fellow thought he could compete with him? This was Long Chen's first time running into such an opponent. The Pill Fairy stood to the side as Long Chen began to stubbornly argue with the vendor until they were both red in the face. She found it funny, but she also felt that this way of living was more authentic. No one had misgivings about her due to her status. She felt an unprecedented relaxed feeling. Then as Long Chen began to argue with the vendor over whether the violet jade cherries were sweet or not for an incense stick's worth of time, she became speechless. One side had to have a taste of one, while the other refused. You won't let me taste one? I just won't buy any. What's so amazing about them? I have plenty of money, and I'll just spend it on even better stuff. Raged Long Chen. He hadn't even managed to swindle away a single cherry. Could it be that his conning divine ability had declined by so much? Is having money amazing? I have plenty of good stuff here. If you won't buy them, someone else will. Oh, you have white-eye lotuses? Those aren't bad. How much for 1 pound? Long Chen suddenly turned toward another one of the other vendors' wares. 30 for 1 pound. The 30 he mentioned was merit points. 30? That's too expensive. Can it be cheaper? Long Chen directly began to bargain. The Pill Fairy was startled. These lotuses weren't actually expensive. They could be easily gained from Pill Valley, and their quality would be greater than what was sold here. She didn't know what he was doing. 1 pound for 30, 2 pounds for 50. The more you want, the greater the discount. It seemed this vendor wasn't so easily angered. He still conducted his business properly. Come on, I don't want to keep asking. How much do you want? The bag's full. Keep packing until the discount's 100%. Bastard, you're just wasting my time. Finally, the disciple snapped. He charged out at Long Chen while picking up a cane from the ground. Long Chen pulled the pill fairy away with him as he fled. He didn't know how far he ran, but the plaza had long since vanished behind them. The enraged disciple was easily thrown off. Long Chen and the pill fairy arrived at a secluded forest path, and the pill fairy was shaking with laughter. This Long San was truly evil. However, she didn't feel any loathing for this. While Long San was domineering on the surface, he didn't use his power to bully the weak. Even when he had been cursed and chased away by a Xiantian realm disciple, he had just laughed and fled. The pill fairy had never seen such a person in Pill Valley. The pill fairy's face suddenly reddened and she pulled her hand out of Long Chen's grasp. Just now, it had been Long Chen who had pulled her away. She hadn't noticed before, but now that she did, her heart pounded. However, she found that Long San didn't react to this. There wasn't the slightest malice in his eyes. They were completely calm. It was as if they had held hands like two children playing around. Oh! Long Chen and the pill fairy suddenly noticed a group of people walking in the distance. Seeing one of those figures, Long Chen's eyes narrowed. "It's Xian Jizi," said the pill fairy. Long Chen was startled. "You know him?" A faint disgust appeared in the pill fairy's eyes. "This person is extremely evil. He has harmed countless geniuses, and his sins are irredeemable. Now he's running from the rest of the world like a mouse. I heard he was chased down until he vanished without a trace, but I didn't expect Protector Zhua to find him. Since he is someone from Heavenly Fate Island, his ability to read the heavens is extremely powerful." A determined expression suddenly wiped away her worry. "Long San, can I trust you?" "Well, I suppose. I'm quite reliable," said Long Chen vaguely, not quite sure what she was planning. "I want to kill Xian Jizi. Can you help?" "What?" Xian Jizi hadn't had a good time in the past few weeks. Every few days, he would have to switch locations. No matter where he went, his calculations said that he was surrounded by danger. The thing that worried him the most was that he was unable to pinpoint the origin of this danger. That was the most terrifying part of it. For Xian Jizi to be unable to calculate the origin of the danger meant there were two possibilities. One was that his opponent's cultivation base far surpassed his own, at least by a major realm. But the entire continent didn't even have that many people on that level, and someone like him wasn't qualified to draw their attention. The second possibility was that his opponent had some kind of divine item screening from the heavens, making him unable to determine their existence. Previously, Xian Jizi had exposed the fact that he had harmed many geniuses by placing a curse on them. Countless experts were now chasing him. Although he could use his powerful heavenly fate arts to avoid those people, he had to pass his days in fear of being caught. One day, he suddenly managed to calculate a ray of hope for himself. He managed to go to the Pill Tower, and through the Pill Tower, he was sent to Pill Valley. Originally, Xian Jizi had thought that he could peacefully cultivate after arriving at Pill Valley. But then Zhuo Tianxiang had appeared and asked him if he wanted to join Pill Valley. Xian Jizi naturally wouldn't refuse such a good thing. He had been sent back to the Pill Tower and secretly set up as the Vice Tower Master. He was to assist in uniting the Eastern Xian region's powers. That had disappointed him a bit. He had come to Pill Valley in order to find a peaceful place, but he was sent back to the Eastern Xian region instead. That also wasn't bad. At the very least, he could hide all day in the Pill Tower and didn't need to worry about his enemies finding him. It was safe. However, for some unknown reason, when he arrived at the Pill Tower, he felt uneasy as if danger was about to descend upon him. Yet, no matter how he calculated things, he was unable to find anything strange. "Stop!" Just as Xian Jizi left one of Pill Valley's transportation formations and was on the path to the next transportation formation, a disciple wearing the divine Pill Hall's robes blocked his path. Xian Jizi was startled. Before he could speak, that disciple demanded, "Are you Xian Jizi?" "Yes, this old man is Xian Jizi." Xianjizi was a bit vexed that a little disciple would call him so directly. But he endured it as this was Pill Valley. Old man? Can you count as an old man if you spent all your years living a dog's life? Said that disciple disdainfully. You. Shut up. I'm the one who feels that this is a pain. I was happily cultivating when I was sent to give a message to you, you old bastard. My luck really is shit. Protector Zhuo wanted me to send this to you. Hey, what are you glaring at me for? Are you going to take it or not? Do you need to be slapped to wake up? The disciple took out a small case. He was in the midst of handing it to Xianjizi when he saw Xianjizi glaring at him furiously. Enraged, the disciple sent a slap at his face. Brat, you're asking for it? Xianjizi was completely infuriated. Even Zhuo Tianxiang hadn't been this rude to him, but this brat was brazen enough to dare to slap him. He extended a hand to catch the disciple's arm, intending to twist it off. Although he didn't dare to kill Pill Valley's disciples, especially not disciples from the Divine Pill Hall, giving them a lesson was fine. However, just as he was twisting that disciple's arm, he suddenly found that it was harder than steel, unable to be moved at all. Instead, it was his own hand that twitched in pain from the effort. Bastard you! Just at this moment, Xianjizi saw a strange smile on the disciple's face. A hand pierced toward his heart as quick as lightning. It happened so suddenly and at such a close distance that Xianjizi couldn't react. The disciple's hand pierced through his chest. Only now did Xianjizi realize that this disciple actually wanted to kill him. He roared furiously, his aura erupted. However, just at this moment, all of his heavenly Tao energy was sucked dry. At the same time, a sharp sword slashed toward his neck. The sword easily pierced his neck, but no blood splashed. The blood seemed to have been frozen by some strange energy. Xianjizi's head was flying into the air. He just managed to see a long-haired woman. Sorry. Divine flame slaughters devils. The Pill Fairy swung her white sword. Thousands of sword images filled the air, destroying Xianjizi's head and soul. Long Chen jumped in shock. The Pill Fairy's core flame was actually so terrifying. She killed a life star expert so easily. Flames also swept out of Long Chen's hands, incinerating Xianjizi's body. After cleaning up the battlefield, the two of them immediately left. In just a few breaths' time, a life star expert had been slain. The two of them rushed away and found a secluded area hundreds of miles away. They sat down and took a breather. At this time, the Pill Fairy and Long Chen returned to their original appearances. Thank you. Without your cooperation, I wouldn't have been able to kill him, let alone kill him without leaving a trace. The Pill Fairy had now returned to her original appearance, and her smile was like a flower blooming. At such a close distance, this smile made Long Chen's heart pound. He hastily said, "It was just a bit of help. The main thing is I found that old fellow displeasing. He definitely wasn't a good person. Killing him was as refreshing as killing one of my personal enemies." How could it not be refreshing? Xianjizi hadn't even known what was going on as he had died. However, Long Chen was deeply shaken by the Pill Fairy's power. He didn't know what technique she had used to strip Xianjizi of his heavenly Tao energy. Without that ability, they wouldn't have been able to kill him. It had to be known that even for a rank 9 Celestial, to suppress a life star expert while at the Jade Core realm was essentially impossible. But the Pill Fairy had done it. Furthermore, her flame had been extremely strange. The sword condensed from her flame looked completely solid. If it didn't possess the specific smell of raging flames, Long Chen would have thought that her sword was a real weapon. In truth, even without me, you would have been able to kill him, said Long Chen. That's not possible. If you hadn't trapped him, I would have ended up empty-handed. Without killing him in one blow, he would run, and I wouldn't be able to stop him. The Pill Fairy shook her head. Long Chen's heart shook. He had just been testing her, but her reply truly shocked him. Clearly, the Pill Fairy had the ability to defeat life star experts. It was just that she wouldn't be able to keep them from running. Why are you staring at me like that? Are you shocked? The Pill Fairy smiled at Long Chen's shocked appearance. I was just thinking, if there comes a day when we have a falling out, will you eliminate me just as easily? It seems I don't have the ability to defeat you. Long Chen bitterly smiled. Now he was really worried. What if the pill fairy learned of his true identity? She would definitely be a terrifying opponent. Killing him probably wouldn't be harder than killing a chicken for her, as she was an existence that could defeat life star experts. That was truly terrifying. What nonsense, you were friends? Why would we fight? The pill fairy reddened and looked away. That was because the way Long Chen had put it sounded like he had been asking what would happen if they broke up. After a moment, that redness faded and the pill fairy said, Shen Jizi was too evil. If he was used by them, he would cause endless trouble. So I had no choice but to take the risk to kill him. But to you, Long San, this is great trouble. If they learn what you have done, things won't be good for you. It'd be better for you to stay with me. At the very least, you'll be safe. Then suddenly thinking of something, the pill fairy hastily said, but don't misunderstand. I wasn't intentionally trying to cause trouble for you. I won't tell anyone. You're overthinking it. Since I trust you, I will trust you fully. Long Chen smiled. Thank you for your trust. I, Yu Qingxian, promise I won't betray that trust. The pill fairy was very moved. Within Pill Valley, trust was something rarely seen. I can't leave Zhuotianxiang yet. But I promise that when both sides start fighting, I will stand on your side. The two of them chatted for a bit longer. When Long Chen asked what the pill fairy's flame was, she didn't hide it from him. She told him that it was a kind of bloodline divine flame. It was not an earth flame, but a flame that was transmitted through her bloodline. As her cultivation base increased, it would grow stronger and she would awaken innate abilities. It was a special inheritance. It was also now that Long Chen learned a thing that dumbfounded him. Yu Qingxian was actually the daughter of the Valley Master. This news shocked him even more than her flame. How old is your father? Asked Long Chen. 2,147 years old. Seeing your shock, it seems that you don't know. The higher the cultivation bases of the parents, the purer the bloodline of their children, and the more divine abilities can be transmitted through their bloodline. The pill fairy giggled at Long Chen's shock. Now she didn't appear to be an aloof fairy, but an ordinary girl. Admirable. Long Chen was only able to make such an appraisal. He immediately had an urge to slap himself in the face. He had said something so cheeky. Fortunately, the pill fairy hadn't realized what Long Chen was admiring, and she thought he was admiring the purity of her bloodline. The two of them chatted for a bit longer before stealthily returning to the divine pill hall. Acting rudely, he went right up to Elder Zhu and clapped his shoulder, demanding, I want to attack the Jade Core realm, so I need a huge amount of Yuan spiritual energy. Prepare it for me right now, immediately, at this moment, instantly. Long San, this is my final warning. Don't treat me as an errand boy. Elder Zhu was infuriated. His eyes were scarlet. Ever since he had taken over Long San had treated him like a dog, shouting at him to do this and do that. Now, he finally lost his temper. Elder Zhu had originally been working hard to look after Long San because of his desire to become a tower master. Long San was his hope of soaring in the future. He had looked after Long San even better than he looked after his father. But Long San's attitude was absolutely infuriating. He actually treated him as an errand boy. He always shouted orders at him. Although he knew this was a result of Long San's confidence inflating and the signs of a heart devil, and he did his best not to care, he had finally reached his limit. This is Pill Valley's Yuan Spirit Divine Pool. Go inside and absorb as much as you want. Once you're done, you can scram. No one is here to look after you. I'm not waiting for you today, roared Elder Zhu furiously after bringing Long Chen to a room. He slammed the stone door behind him and left. Long Chen stared at him dumbfoundedly. What was with this old man? Hadn't they been getting along perfectly well before? Could it be that he hadn't performed well in his dual cultivation last night? This place was under Pill Valley, and there was a deep pool thousands of meters long here. The pool was completely full, containing a terrifying amount of Yuan spiritual energy. This was one of Pill Valley's Yuan Spirit Divine pools, and this liquid was Yuan Spirit Divine Elixir. The Foundation Forging disciples could absorb it to establish their immortal platforms. This Yuan Spirit Divine Elixir had been accumulating for countless years. A formation at the bottom of the pool extracted heaven and earth's Yuan spiritual energy to form it. In truth, this Yuan Spirit Divine Elixir was not as pure as the energy within Yuan Spirit Stones. After all, Yuan Spirit Stones were natural treasures, while this Yuan Spirit Divine Elixir was artificial. Pill Valley's disciples didn't care too much about cultivation base, and Foundation Forging disciples in Pill Valley actually worried about their cultivation bases rising too quickly, so they never used this Yuan Spirit Divine Elixir. So while this pool might be a priceless treasure to the outside world sects, it was essentially useless to Pill Valley. If Pill Valley wasn't already so wealthy, they would just sell this off. Just the money they would get from this Yuan Spirit Divine pool was enough to drown others. Not bad. It's like this place was specifically prepared for me. Long Chen jumped right into the pool. He found that the pool was several miles deep, and a huge formation at its bottom was drawing energy from the world and into the pool. The 4 Chi Seas and 108,000 immortal platforms in Long Chen's body began to revolve. Flame energy enveloped his body and began to crazily absorb the Yuan's spiritual energy around him. If Long Chen used the divine ring, his absorption would be much faster, but with the curse, he could only use his flame energy to absorb the Yuan's spiritual energy. Chanting appeared. As he used the Nirvana scripture, a blood-colored ring appeared behind him. That was his attempt at using his flame energy to mimic his divine ring. The Yuan Spirit Divine Elixir here was not water and wasn't affected by this ring of fire. The ring of fire began to revolve. Although it wasn't as effective as the real divine ring, it was still effective, like a gaping maw devouring the Yuan Spirit Divine Elixir. The energy was then absorbed by his 108,000 immortal platforms. Long Chen's body began to shine and emit a sacred air. Elder Zhu had left furiously and simply sent a few people to guard the entrance, not allowing anyone to disturb Long Chen. He didn't realize that his furious departure only benefited Long Chen. The huge pool began to descend at a rate visible to the naked eye. Boom! Long Chen's immortal platforms shook and once more rose a level. Huge waves raged in the pool. The 10th heaven stage. Long Chen was delighted, but in an instant, his expression changed. After reaching the 10th heaven stage, he found that circulating his immortal platforms caused his meridians to swell slightly. It seems my physical body still isn't strong enough. It can't bear the power of my 108,000 immortal platforms. Well, I can't be bothered. In any case, I can't use my divine ring or battle armor either. I'll just have to be a flame cultivator for now. Long Chen couldn't be bothered with the problem of his physical body right now. He continued to absorb energy. After reaching the 10th heaven stage, his rate of absorption also increased. The Yuan Spirit Divine pool was dropping rapidly. Now it was dropping foot by foot. Boom! Long Chen's body shook once more as he reached the 11th heaven stage. Although Long Chen didn't circulate the power of his immortal platforms intentionally, they activated on their own when he advanced. Despite his best effort to control it, a burst of pain still came from his meridians. It was like millions of needles were stabbing them. Long Chen didn't give a damn. Clenching his teeth, he continued to absorb energy. He didn't even know how terrifying the energy in his immortal platforms was now, but he knew that even without the underworld soul ghost curse, his body wouldn't be able to bear using it. His immortal platforms were different from other people's. The runes in his body contained 2 kinds of energy. One energy supported his physical body, while the other was similar to the energy of his Chi Seas. These 2 energies supported each other and could unleash immense energy combined. However, right now, he couldn't use the first energy since his physical body couldn't bear it. He could only use the second. Boom! After an unknown amount of time, the water level drastically sank once more. Long Chen coughed up blood multiple times as cracks appeared on his body. Fuck, how dangerous. I almost exploded. Long Chen had almost exploded from the power of his immortal platforms when he advanced to the 12th heaven stage. There had been no way to control them. His originally cylindrical immortal platforms suddenly compressed, shrinking one whole level. When his pillar-like immortal platforms were compressed, they suddenly unleashed a terrifying wave of energy that almost killed him. It seems I really went a bit too far this time. If I died like this, I wouldn't even have a place to cry. Long Chen shivered thinking about what had just happened. But he had managed to survive it, and he continued to absorb energy. Elder Zhu waited 3 days, but he didn't see Long San come out. He became impatient. According to reason, Long San should have come out in just a day. After all, his cultivation base was already at the 9th heaven stage of foundation forging. To absorb the Yuan Spirit Divine Elixir to reach the great circle of foundation forging shouldn't take so long. However, he refused to go inside to get Long San because he felt that Long San was very likely trying to play a trick on him. He had previously said that Long San should come out on his own and that no one was serving him. If he went in to get Long San, he would be slapping himself in the face and mocked by Long San. Elder Zhu had had his own goal in shouting at Long San. Long San's ego had inflated dangerously, and he needed to be taught a lesson. However, 3 days were too long. Just as Elder Zhu was hesitating over whether or not Long San was doing this on purpose, an explosive sound came from within, and the ground violently shook. He immediately rushed in without bothering about his previous worries. When he opened the stone door and looked inside, he couldn't believe his eyes. Protector Zhua, bad news? What happened? Elder Zhu nervously ran into Zhua Tianxiang's room. Reporting to Protector Zhua, Long San, he absorbed all the Yuan Spirit Divine Elixir. Elder Zhu's voice quivered. He knew that the Yuan Spirit Divine Pool wasn't very important to Pill Valley's disciples, but it was still a huge amount of wealth. What nonsense! That's impossible! Zhua Tianxiang was enraged. The Yuan Spirit Divine Elixir had been accumulating for over 100,000 years. Even 1,000,000 foundation forging disciples wouldn't be able to absorb it all. It's true. I personally saw it. That Long San absorbed all of it, not leaving even a single drop. Elder Zhu had an urge to cry. When he had charged in, he had managed to see Long San absorb the remaining bit. He had personally witnessed the final dregs entering his body. This is impossible. That bastard must have stolen it secretly. There's really no saving this idiot. Zhua Tianxiang sneered. Even if he was beaten to death, he wouldn't believe that a single person could absorb the stock that Pill Valley had been accumulating for over 100,000 years. That's possible, but then what should we do? How could that bastard do something so stupid? Elder Zhu hesitated. It was true that this was a possibility. Perhaps Long San had stolen most of the elixir before making a disturbance to draw him in, all so that he could witness Long San absorbing the final bit. However, how could Long San do something so stupid? Was he an idiot? Do you want me to do a body search and add some torture? A vicious light appeared in Elder Zhu's eyes. He hated Long San and wished that he could properly torment him. No need. Long San has completely fallen under his heart devil and turned into an idiot. His path is completely different from others. When you go back, seal the divine pool and prohibit others from entering. If disciples need to enter, say the formation needs to be repaired and that they should come later. We won't say a word for now. Let that idiot prance about, but once he has done his job in the Heaven Dragon Flame region, we'll eliminate him. He won't be able to get away with any of Pill Valley's things. Teach him powerful flame magical arts, especially moves that exchange injury for injury. Suicidal moves would be the best. Also prepare a 9 revolution raging flame explosion pill for him, but don't tell him the name of the pill. Just say that once he consumes it his power will multiply by several times, said Zhua Tianxiang. This disciple will live up to your expectations. Elder Zhu smiled sinisterly. That 9 revolution raging flame explosion pill would allow a person's power to crazily soar, but once its medicinal effect passed, the consumer would only have an incense stick's time left to enjoy their life. Thinking of how Long San would definitely die made Elder Zhu feel much happier. Long Chen had absorbed every last drop of the Yuan's spirit divine pool, allowing him to finally reach the peak of the 12th heaven stage of foundation forging. He was just one step away from the Jade Core realm. At this time, his 108,000 immortal platforms were once more compressed by some energy, turning into spheres. These spheres were covered in his original runes. This was something that occurred when normal cultivators attacked the Jade Core realm. Their immortal platforms would turn spherical as they prepared to condense the divine core. Right now, the only thing remaining for him to do was to strip off his original runes. Then he could step into the Jade Core realm. These runes were like a layer of protection for the energy inside. Once they were stripped off, through the baptism of lightning, his divine core would truly form. Right now, Long Chen was at the Great Circle of Foundation Forging and could also count as being at the half-step Jade Core realm. But at the same time as he was delighted over this, he was also filled with horror. That horror was directed at the amount of energy contained in his immortal platforms. Right now, he was like a vase packed with 108,000 bombs. Once one detonated, his body would no longer exist. Despite his previous experience, he had underestimated the final 3 heaven stage of the 9-star hegemon body art. Each advancement had increased the power of his immortal platforms by 10 times. Right now, even just extracting their energy and turning it into flame energy had to be done carefully. Accidentally drawing a bit too much would cause him to explode. Long Chen had never felt such reverence for the 9-star hegemon body art. This cultivation technique was definitely unrivaled in this world. Long Chen left the Yuan Spirit Divine Pool. He went into seclusion for more than half a month before finally getting accustomed to his new body. He could now extract the spiritual Yuan in his immortal platforms and transform it into flame energy without worrying so much about exploding. The amount of flame energy he could produce now was essentially endless. Right now, he could only be a complete flame cultivator and couldn't use the power of his physical body. He couldn't use his true power to fight. The thing that made Long Chen curious was that contrary to what he had expected, Zhuo Tianxiang's furious reprisal never came. He never came to demand if he had stolen the Yuan Spirit Divine Elixir. Elder Zhu never brought it up as if it had never happened. At first, Long Chen found this very strange, but then he realized Zhuo Tianxiang was truly planning on using him as a one-time use killing tool. After his seclusion, Elder Zhu directly tossed Long Chen into the Divine Pill Pavilion and selected several sinister and ruthless techniques for him to train in. Long Chen acted obedient and learned them. With his powerful soul energy and control, learning these techniques was easy, and Elder Zhu was satisfied by his display. However, neither Elder Zhu nor Zhuo Tianxiang decided to make Long Chen go through his tribulation. There wasn't enough time. The Heaven Dragon Flame region would be opened in just a few days. With Zhuo Tianxiang's efforts, Long Chen didn't even have to go through a test to receive a spot to enter the Heaven Dragon Flame region. Another disciple gave him their spot. On this day, when Long Chen finally left seclusion, Dan Yanxue, Qin Dongzi, and the rest of the core of the Divine Spear Alliance had already gathered. "Let's go. We were only waiting for you," said Dan Yanxue indifferently. Long Chen smiled. Neither Dan Yanxue nor Qin Dongzi truly cared about him. In their eyes, he was just a chess piece. Long San, remember to look after yourself once you enter the Heaven Dragon Flame region. Remember, safety first. Don't harm others. Every person's life is a gift from their father and mother. We don't provoke people, but we aren't afraid of others. If someone wants to kill you, you don't need to stand on courtesy. Even if you kill them in retaliation, you have our Divine Spear Alliance behind you. Furthermore, you are a Grand Elder's final apprentice. Don't lose face for your fallen master. Qin Dongzi patted Long Chen on the shoulder solemnly. I don't need your reminder. I'll kill anyone who provokes me. Of course, that includes that idiot Jiang Zijuan. I'm now so strong that I can kill anyone, said Long Chen arrogantly. Qin Dongzi was startled. Long San was truly brazen to not even place Jiang Zijuan in his eyes. That was pure suicide. Was a rank 9 celestial really someone he could handle? However, he didn't say this and nodded instead. Excellent, that's the right attitude. Protector Zhuo has given you a few missions. He wants you to eliminate a few people. Kendongza didn't speak this time, but instead sent him a spiritual message along with a jade tile. Long Chen's divine sense swept through the jade tile. He disdainfully said, "Is he looking down on me? Are these insects worthy of me personally killing?" There were dozens of names on the jade tile, and there were also recordings of their appearance so he would be able to know who they were. These people were all foundation forging disciples, so their cultivation bases weren't particularly high. But they were all alchemy geniuses and had high positions in the Divine Shield Alliance. Zhuo Tianxiang wanted him to assassinate these geniuses. Once these geniuses were dead, the Divine Shield Alliance would be heavily injured. The Divine Spear Alliance would go from having a disadvantage in terms of alchemy geniuses to an absolute advantage. With the power Long Chen had displayed, killing these people would be very easy. That was why Long Chen intentionally expressed his disdain. It'd be best if you took this seriously. If you fail, don't even think about continuing to live happily in Pill Valley. But if you do a good job, your prospects in Pill Valley will be limitless. Don't joke about this, warned Kendongza. He had no choice but to give Long San a warning, because he really was worried about Long San treating his words as nothing more than a fart and ruining this matter. Stop worrying. I'm not trash like these people. Speaking of which, it'd be no problem for me to kill a few more people than just the ones on the list, right? There are many people in the opposing faction that I find very displeasing, said Long Chen. Hearing this, Kendongza's eyes brightened for a moment before he concealed it. Originally, he had been worried that Long San wouldn't dare to kill people, but now it seemed that he didn't need to give him any more encouragement. Kill them as you please. The more you kill, the greater your reward, said Kendongza spiritually. He then opened his mouth to say, "Remember, you are a member of the Divine Spear Alliance. No one can provoke us." Long Chen nodded, a smile on his face. He was clear on this matter. Zhuo Tianxiang had raised him just for this one usage. Once the Heaven Dragon Flame region closed, even if he came out alive, he'd probably be executed. At that time, he'd say that Long San had gone crazy and indiscriminately killed people in the Heaven Dragon Flame region. Then he'd find an excuse to kill him so that no one could testify. However, Long Chen truly felt that this plan was laughable. Even if he was executed, could the deaths of so many disciples really be made up for with just his death? Furthermore, the one who had drawn him into Pill Valley and raised him, Zhuo Tianxiang, would have a 90% chance of being offered as a sacrifice because of those deaths. Long Chen really couldn't tell just what Zhuo Tianxiang was thinking. With how crafty he was, he wouldn't sow something so foolish. Did he have some way to escape his punishment? He couldn't quite figure it out, but he couldn't be bothered to waste the energy to think about it. That problem wasn't important. He hadn't expected Zhuo Tianxiang to sacrifice him so soon, so he had to think of a way to get out of it. Just as he was pondering this, they arrived at a transportation formation within Pill Valley. The Divine Shield Alliance's disciples were already waiting. The Divine Shield Alliance's disciples stared coldly at them. Their hostility was clear. "Senior apprentice brother Zijuan, it's been a while. You look as suave as ever. Oh, how come the Pill Fairy hasn't come?" Kendongza pretended to exclaim in shock. Due to Wan Qing and Long San, the Pill Fairy had become hostile with Jiang Zijuan, and it had reached the point that the Pill Fairy had stopped caring about the Divine Shield Alliance. This was something everyone in Pill Valley knew, so it was clear Kendongza was mocking him. Jiang Zijuan's face was ashen. He coldly said, "You don't have to worry about it. If you have the energy, you should instead focus on increasing the alchemy ability of your Divine Spear Alliance. Each time there's a trial, aren't you always miserably defeated?" Kendongza merely smiled and didn't argue against this. The main thing was that there was no way to argue. The Divine Shield Alliance truly suppressed them in terms of alchemy. "Long San, let me introduce you. This is the Grand Jiang Zijuan, the Divine Shield Alliance's master. He's a hero amongst men. You two should get to know each other," chortled Kendongza as he pushed Long Chen forward. Kendongza was truly sinister. Despite clearly knowing Jiang Zijuan hated Long Chen to the bone, he intentionally brought him out as bait while acting like he didn't know of their relationship. Tisich, someone like him isn't qualified to exchange words with me. It'd be better for me to keep a low profile. Long Chen shook his head and didn't even look at Jiang Zijuan. Low profile? Whether they were from the Divine Shield Alliance or the Divine Spear Alliance, the disciples were all united in their speechlessness. If Long San had kept a low profile, then there was no one in the world who had kept a high profile. Although he knew that Condongza was intentionally trying to infuriate him, Jiang Zijuan wasn't able to help himself. His fury soared. Long San, you better watch out. I'll teach you a lesson in the Heaven Dragon Flame region. Long Chen sighed inside. This Jiang Zijuan was definitely an idiot. What Condongza wanted was precisely for him to say this. But he still didn't realize. He couldn't help but feel regretful. Without the Pill Fairy, the Divine Shield Alliance led by Jiang Zijuan wouldn't be able to last for long before being wiped out. Just as Jiang Zijuan was threatening Long Chen, Condongza and Dan Yanxue exchanged a glance. Both of them saw the other's hidden smile. Long Chen suddenly felt a sense of alarm. No wonder he had felt that his calculations had gone awry. Could the true people that wanted to set him up be these two and not Zhuo Tianxiang? Just at this moment, everyone turned silent, and a group of people slowly walked over. The one at the front was the peerless beauty, the Pill Fairy in her pure white dress. The Pill Fairy walked gracefully over. Despite having seen her before, many of these disciples had their breath taken away by her. All the men stared worshipfully at this unmatched beauty. The group the Pill Fairy had come with consisted of neutral disciples within the Divine Pill Hall. For her to come with them expressed that she had fully cut ties with the Divine Shield Alliance. That made the Divine Shield Alliance's disciples sigh ruefully. Dan Yanxue's gaze became much sharper. She was also a beauty, and although she couldn't count as a beauty that could cause the collapse of a nation, her figure and grand air were enough to infatuate men. However, her innate arrogance made others uncomfortable around her. In comparison, the Pill Fairy was far more beautiful and didn't possess any arrogance. She was warm and friendly. That was something that made others respect her naturally. What people revered wasn't her position or her beauty, but that noble moral character. There was no way to compare the two. Even if Dan Yanxue's looks could surpass the Pill Fairy's, she couldn't learn the Pill Fairy's noble bearing. That was an inner quality. While others also felt Dan Yanxue to be a beauty, now that the Pill Fairy was also present, she lost her luster. Although Dan Yanxue did her best to conceal her jealousy, Long Chen easily saw through her act. Big brother, be careful. I heard others will make things hard on you. Wan Qing stood by the Pill Fairy's side. She shyly spoke to Long Chen, seeming afraid. Due to the scuffle in the inner sect, she was now afraid of Jiang Zijuan. Jiang Zijuan's expression sank, and he glared at her, causing her to immediately hide behind the Pill Fairy. Long Chen walked over and gently rubbed her head. He was smiling. Don't worry, didn't I tell you that I'm a descendant of the grand warriors of the starry sky? My power is limitless. These fellows that want to target me are all trash. I can kill them with just a fart. Big brother, you're just bragging. I don't believe you, laughed Wan Qing. The Pill Fairy couldn't help but shake her head. Long San truly dared to say anything. Although his way of speaking was a bit crude, his unrestrained character made him feel easier to get close to. Jiang Zijuan's expression immediately sank upon hearing Wan Qing's laughter. Long San was looking down on them. One of the Divine Shield Alliance's disciples lost his temper and pointed at Long Chen, cursing, Long San, you dash. Long Chen swung his hand and slapped him in the face. Do you think the name Long San is something you can say? Call me Master Long, declared Long Chen. However, as soon as he slapped him, he regretted it. Long Chen had forgotten that he had reached the great circle of foundation forging. His cultivation base had advanced by an immense amount. Although he hadn't used his spiritual yuan to support his slap, the pure power of his physical body had risen greatly. With just his lightest force, that disciple's head almost exploded. Fortunately, the disciple's pill flame had automatically protected him when he had sensed the danger. Otherwise, this slap would have killed him. His head was deformed, looking almost like a cracked egg. He hastily used his heavenly Tao energy to heal and consumed a medicinal pill. Although he quickly recovered, that didn't change the fact that he had almost died just now. Long Chen's slap had replaced his fury with terror. "Long San, you're courting death," roared Jiang Zijuan. "I've been courting death for a long time, but no one has managed to kill me. As for you, you're not even fit to try," snorted Long Chen. "Long San, be careful in the Heaven Dragon Flame region. Jiang Zijuan will definitely try to kill you inside. Although he's not a pure flame cultivator, he can use the pressure of a rank 9 celestial and the power of his earth flame. You aren't his match," warned the Pill Fairy through a spiritual message. "Yes, I understand. I won't do anything stupid," responded Long Chen in the same manner. With the curse afflicting his body, not even the Pill Fairy could sense his true power. All she could sense was his powerful spiritual strength and his powerful body. However, just those 2 points were not enough. His earth flame was ranked outside the top 30. He would definitely be suppressed by Jiang Zijuan. "I'll transmit the location of the Nirvana Scripture's original tablet, as well as a detailed map of the Heaven Dragon Flame region, to you," said the Pill Fairy. An image suddenly appeared in Long Chen's mind. It was a map marked with the position of the Nirvana Scripture. "Thank you. I'll remember this favor." Long Chen was truly grateful. The Pill Fairy had helped him out immensely. It had to be known that this opening of the Heaven Dragon Flame region was for disciples to test their luck. Pill Valley didn't offer the disciples maps. The two of them were communicating with spiritual messages. From the outside, it looked like they were staring deeply into each other's eyes. Suddenly, the sound of countless hearts shattering rang out. Even Kendong's gaze turned a bit cold. Within Pill Valley, every male disciple worshipped the Pill Fairy. Thus, for her to express special treatment to Long Chen made them almost go insane with jealousy. However, Kendong's lips then curled. He noticed a certain person looking like he was about to explode. Yes, it was Jiang Zijuan. "Don't just look at that woman. Remember, you're in charge of looking after Jiang Zijuan in the Heaven Dragon Flame region. Don't let him slaughter Long San right at the beginning. If that happened, our plans would just be a huge joke," warned Dan Yanxue. "I know. It'll be no problem." Kendongza nodded. He didn't need this reminder. "Don't forget to arrange for the others," continued Dan Yanxue. "It has been arranged. Once they enter the Heaven Dragon Flame region, they'll find their own targets. It'll be easy for them to take Long San's face and kill their targets." Dan Yanxue nodded. She no longer said anything in case anyone noticed. Just at this moment, another group of disciples walked over, and Long Chen was slightly startled. These disciples were powerful. They had intense flame fluctuations coming off of them. Furthermore, they emitted a battle aura that the Divine Pill Hall's disciples didn't possess. These were flame cultivators that had seen a true bloody battlefield. The majority of them were in the Jade Core realm, and they had extremely powerful auras. Their leader was a large man. With his sideburns and bronze eyes, he looked very ferocious. However, he seemed tired, like he had just rushed over from the outside world. In fact, many of these people looked as travel-weary as him. They had clearly rushed over from some place outside Pill Valley, returning specifically for the Heaven Dragon Flame region. The opening of the Heaven Dragon Flame region was a benefit that Pill Valley gave its disciples. It had earth flame spirit beasts that they could subdue. As for what kind of earth flame they got, it would be up to their luck and power. The top 20 earth flames could not be exchanged with merit points inside Pill Valley. If a disciple wanted such a thing, they would need to find it themselves, usually in the Heaven Dragon Flame region. Even Kendongza, Dan Yanxue, and Jiang Zijuan were using flames outside the top 20 of earth flames ranking. A portion of these people had entered the Heaven Dragon Flame region before, but their luck hadn't been good and they hadn't gained any suitable earth flames. It had to be known that earth flames that were too powerful weren't existences they could subdue. Instead, there was the danger of them dying. According to Pill Valley's rules, Jade Core disciples and below had 3 chances to enter the Heaven Dragon Flame region. If they didn't obtain anything in those 3 attempts, it could only be said that they had no destiny with the Heaven Dragon Flame region. In the future, they probably wouldn't have much more room for growth if they couldn't find a powerful earth flame, and so Pill Valley might just abandon them. The Pill Fairy was naturally an exception. She possessed an innate divine flame and didn't need to subdue earth flames. So she wasn't entering the Heaven Dragon Flame region. Are you the Pill Fairy? I am Chu Dajiang. Well met. The large man cupped his fists to the Pill Fairy. His voice was like a roaring flood. Long Chen's heart shook. Based on this person's aura, he probably also specialized in power. He hadn't expected there to be a flame cultivator with such a powerful physical body. Senior apprentice brother Chu is too courteous, responded the Pill Fairy. The Pill Fairy felt like she had heard his name before, but she couldn't remember. After greeting the Pill Fairy, Chu Dajiang didn't say anything else. He found a place to close his eyes and rest. The atmosphere became a bit strange. It was like there was an undercurrent flowing within the air, making it hard for them to breathe. Just at this moment, the transportation formation lit up, forming a large barrier. Powerful spatial fluctuations came from within the barrier. The Heaven Dragon Flame region was its own minor world. It wasn't within the Martial Heaven continent. To reach it, they had to go through this transportation formation. Let's go. Kendongza led his people in. Don't worry, I'll be fine. Long Chen waved to the Pill Fairy and Wan Qing, clenching his fist to express victory to them as he hastily followed Kendongza and Dan Yanshua. They had only just stepped into the transportation formation when the world spun around them. Long Chen felt like he had entered a stove. Waves of heat assaulted him. An ordinary person would ignite just from breathing here. Even he had to circulate his flame energy to protect himself. Otherwise, his robes would be incinerated. When the world stopped spinning, he saw a sea of lava. In the distance were high mountains, yet they also didn't seem like mountains. Instead, they were like islands rolling on the lava. Everything here was filled with dense flame energy. Long San, hurry and go, said Kendongza. Don't think you can order me around. I'll leave whenever I want, sneered Long Chen. He crushed a teleportation talisman and instantly disappeared from their sight. There's no saving this bastard. Kendongza couldn't help being infuriated as he looked at where Long Chen had just been. Don't care so much about a dead person. They've also come, so as long as you keep watch of Jiang Zijuan, there definitely won't be any problems. Everyone else has their jobs as well, said Dan Yanshua. The reason Dan Yanshua had rushed in here ahead of the Divine Shield Alliance's disciples was for Long Chen to be teleported away before them. That was to avoid Jiang Zijuan targeting him. With the Divine Shield Alliance's disciples also entering, everyone began to scatter, all of them searching for their own opportunities. Alright, the game of cat and mouse has begun. Remember, when you find Long San, release the signal. I want to make him live a life worse than death, shouted Jiang Zijuan to the people beside him. By the time Jiang Zijuan entered, Dan Yanshua and the others had already rushed away. He knew that Dan Yanshua and the others wouldn't just watch as he killed Long San so easily, so he decided to let them take this early lead so they could start this game of cat and mouse. Yes. All the Divine Shield Alliance's disciples scattered. They had even more people than the Divine Spear Alliance, and their chances of running into Long Chen were greater, especially with them having been given the order to hunt down Long Chen as their top priority. As for looking for earth flames, that could be done slowly. In any case, the Heaven Dragon Flame region would be open for a month. Although it was huge and a month's time wasn't even close to being enough to reach its edge, they all started from the same spot. For this many people to look for one person instead of earth flames made it very easy for them to stumble into either of them. Just at this moment, the large Chu Dajiang also entered. Brother Chu, if you encounter Long San, I hope you won't kill him immediately. I have even better ways to handle him and make him feel just how luxurious death is, said Jiang Zijuan. That's up to Long San's luck. When I attack, my aim is to kill. But I am interested in this suggestion. Goodbye. Chu Dajiang was indifferent. Flames erupted out of him, and a pair of flame wings appeared on his back. He rushed off like a shooting star. The Flame Divine Palace's disciples entered the Heaven Dragon Flame region, all of them excitedly rushing off to find their own opportunities. On the other side of the transportation formation, the pill fairy was slowly walking away when she paused and looked back. She suddenly recalled where she had heard the name Chu Dajiang. "Big sister, what is it?" asked Wanqing. "It's nothing. Let's go back." The pill fairy shook her head and led Wanqing away, but worry still lingered on her face. It was no wonder she had felt Chu Dajiang to be familiar. He was Chu Chuanxing's half-brother. One of them walked the path of the alchemist, while one walked the path of a flame cultivator. And even amongst flame cultivators, Chu Dajiang was extremely terrifying. He was a rank 9 celestial. Long Chen had slain his brother, Chu Chunxing, and now Chu Dajiang had entered the Heaven Dragon Flame region. His goal was obvious. However, they had already entered, and it was impossible for her to stop them. The only one Long San could rely on was himself. Space shook, and Long Chen appeared atop a mountain, which composed entirely of rock. The mountain had some faint crevices in an almost honeycomb-like fashion. This was the result of the flame energy constantly washing over it. A burning smell still lingered in the air. Looking out from this high mountain, he saw a sea of lava around him. Well, it was more like a swamp of lava. But he couldn't see far because the heat caused space to twist, cutting his effective visual range to about 10 miles. For me to be able to teleport within such an unstable space, Pill Valley really cares about me. Long Chen chortled. That ancient teleportation talisman he had just used was an absolute treasure. The talisman cultivators of today couldn't possibly create such a talisman. In order to allow Long Chen to get a head start, Pill Valley had given him such a precious talisman. That showed just how highly they viewed him. I shouldn't be in a rush to get to the original tablet. I have to subdue some earth flames first. Those bastards all have stronger earth flames than mine. It'd be troublesome to run into them as I am now. Long Chen looked at his surroundings and then checked with the map the pill fairy had given him. He realized that he was just 1,000 miles from the transportation point. What the? Didn't that say it could send me up to 10,000 miles away? TSH, it's definitely my bad luck again. Long Chen extended a hand, and Hua Long appeared. He jumped onto Hua Long's back and they rushed off. Hua Long, share your line of sight with me. Through Hua Long's senses, Long Chen was able to see even further within this fiery space. Within the Heaven Dragon Flame region, his sight and spiritual strength were suppressed. But Hua Long was like a fish in water here. If he hadn't told Hua Long not to cause a disturbance, it'd probably be roaring excitedly. The air was filled with dense flame energy, which was the best nourishment to Hua Long. It was like dense spiritual qi to cultivators. Long Chen rushed off with Hua Long for 6 hours. Within the Heaven Dragon Flame region, Hua Long's speed was extremely terrifying. They had traveled a great distance, yet when he checked the map, he found that this great distance was absolutely nothing compared to the Heaven Dragon Flame region as a whole. They were in the midst of traveling when a roar came from below them. A huge figure charged out at Hua Long. It was an earth flame spirit beast in the shape of a flame python. It emitted a powerful pressure. Hua Long, don't stand on courtesy. Eat it. Long Chen laughed. This was a feast for Hua Long, who had originally kept its size to just 300 meters long, suddenly grew explosively. Previously, Long Chen had told it to conceal its aura so it wouldn't be so easily sensed. But now was the time to start drawing the attention of the earth flames. The flame python's size was less than 1/10 of Hua Long's 30,000 meters. It was instantly devoured. Hua Long's body suddenly flashed as it instantly absorbed all its energy. Its aura also increased in power. That earth flame spirit beast probably wasn't ranked very high. Furthermore, it wasn't fully matured. Hua Long, let's continue eating. Long Chen and Hua Long continued. With Hua Long no longer needing to conceal its aura, it began to run rampant throughout this region, seeking to draw more earth flames. Oh, we've been noticed? Perhaps it had been drawn over by Hua Long's provocation, but a terrifying aura suddenly began to rush over to their location. A huge flame leopard suddenly leaped out of the twisting space. It was as large as a mountain, and the pressure coming from it made Long Chen's heart shake. This flame leopard had copper coin-like patterns all over its body. Each one of those copper coins had a blood-colored flower at the center. Ranked 19th on the Earth Flame rankings, the Scarlet Bloodheart Flame? This was a treasure that delighted Long Chen. He hadn't expected to be so lucky as to run into a top 20 Earth Flame so quickly. The flame leopard charged forward like a violent magical beast, its fur bristling. It sent a claw at Hualong, while Hualong met it head-on. As a result, Hualong was blown apart into runes by the claw. Hualong was unable to even bear a single attack from the flame leopard. This fact shocked Long Chen. It had to be known that during this time, Hualong had been absorbing a huge amount of earth flame essence. Its power had risen greatly, and yet this flame leopard still outclassed it. It was truly worthy of being ranked 19th on the earth flame ranking. A fierce roar rang out as Hualong condensed again. It attacked the flame leopard. Fierce collisions shook the world. This was the most primitive kind of battle. There was no technique as they simply collided again and again. Hualong's technique and flexibility were definitely 100 times better than this flame leopard, but the difference in flame energy was too great for it to take advantage of that. In just a moment, it was torn in two by the flame leopard. After reforming, Hualong's power dropped slightly, and it let out a furious roar. It was powerless against the flame leopard. Hualong, don't panic. Stall it. Long Chen had been closely absorbing the flame leopard. This natural existence was truly powerful. Ordinary jade core experts would be unable to even approach it before being incinerated. It wasn't that Hualong wasn't strong, but that this fellow was too terrifying. However, natural existences formed by the heavens always had a fatal weakness. They didn't have brains. Long Chen formed hand seals and began to chant. Countless flame runes crazily gathered at an unprecedented rate. Long Chen was shocked. The Nirvana scripture was many times stronger here than in the outside world. Practically, all the flame energy suddenly became like obedient house pets rushing over to assist him. He was surprised, but he didn't bother with that for now. Hualong was already starting to break apart again. Flame chains condensed in the air, each one of them several meters thick. They came from every direction, surrounding the flame leopard. Pill Valley's flame arts are truly powerful. Long Chen was delighted. Sensing the power of these flame chains, Long Chen profoundly experienced the terror of Pill Valley. Heaven-Earth Prison. These chains suddenly became like millions of serpents, forming a huge cage that enveloped both the flame leopard and Hualong. Hualong immediately vanished as Long Chen called it back. The cage now tightened around the flame leopard. Twisting flame death blow. The flame cage tightened around the flame leopard. It struggled intensely, causing the cage to constantly quiver. This cage was an extremely powerful technique he had learned in Pill Valley. It was much more complicated than the raging flame prison he had previously learned, and it was also much more terrifying. Although the cast time was a bit long, it was the best technique to use against a mindless earth flame spirit beast. While he had been accumulating power, the earth flame spirit beast hadn't even known that it should be running. It crazily struggled. What Long Chen hadn't expected was that it was making this powerful cage shudder intensely. This earth flame spirit beast is actually so powerful. Long Chen was shocked. Its power was greater than what he had estimated. His twisting flame death blow was unable to instantly kill it. However, the flame cage continued to shrink. Although it was unable to kill it, the earth flame spirit beast couldn't budge. No, it's not that the cage isn't strong enough, but that their energy comes from the same source. Whether it was Hualong or the energy he had gathered with the Nirvana scripture, they were all flame energy. Using flame energy to attack an earth flame spirit beast would naturally have less effect than normal. This was also why fights between flame cultivators were so boring. Their power came from the same source, so unless there was a large power disparity, it would turn into a battle of attrition. Flame cultivators in the same realm might fight for several days without determining a winner. In the end, it depended on whose spiritual yuan and soul energy was greater. That was why no one was interested in watching flame cultivators fight. Now Long Chen was in a deadlock against this earth flame spirit beast. He was unable to kill it, but it was unable to escape his cage. "Hua Long, come out and eat it," said Long Chen. Hua Long flew out of Long Chen's arm and bit down on the flame leopard. Flames danced as it tore off a chunk of it. This meat was actually the flame leopard's purest flame runes. It crazily struggled and roared, but the cage bound it, making it so it couldn't even move, let alone strike back at Hua Long. Seeing this, Hua Long continued to take large bites out of it. As it consumed its energy, Hua Long's aura grew stronger, while the flame leopard began to shrink and dim. After a while, Hua Long was no longer able to continue eating more of its energy. It needed a bit of time to digest it. At this moment, it was possible to see the difference between them. Hua Long had to rest 7 times before fully devouring it. After devouring it, Hua Long's aura had completely transformed. Flames constantly erupted from it, making one impossible to see its body. Long Chen knew this was the result of Hua Long not being able to control its new power. It needed some time to get accustomed to it. Oh! People arrived this quickly? Long Chen suddenly looked into the distance. Intense fluctuations were coming from there. He knew that most likely, someone else was subduing an earth flame spirit beast. Long Chen wanted to take a look. Putting away Hua Long, he rushed over. After just a bit, the fluctuations grew clearer. He quickly saw several figures fighting an earth flame spirit beast. It was a scorpion-like beast. Because they were too far, Long Chen wasn't able to see its unique attributes, so he couldn't tell what earth flame it was. However, just from the fluctuations, he knew that its ranking wouldn't be too low. It was at least much stronger than the berserk blood flame he had consumed. Its ranking looked to be around 26 or 27. Looking toward the 3 disciples, he was startled by the coincidence. They were all disciples from the Divine Shield Alliance. 2 of them were on the list of people he was supposed to kill. They were Foundation Forging disciples, while the 3rd one was a Jade Core expert. The Jade Core expert was a rank 8 celestial. The 3 of them were continuously forming hand seals gravely. A blood-red rune was revolving around the Jade Core disciple's forehead, and blood chains were flying out at the Earth Flame Spirit Beast. The Earth Flame Spirit Beast was currently fighting against countless flame chains, which had traces of blood within it. The Earth Flame Spirit Beast was struggling so fiercely that it looked like the chains would break at any moment. The 3 of them were extremely nervous. Capturing such a powerful Earth Flame Spirit Beast was extremely dangerous for them. Therefore, they were completely focused on using their spiritual strength to seal this Earth Flame Spirit Beast. If they failed and it broke their seal, their souls would be permanently damaged. Long Chen could see that it was the rank 8 celestial that was intent on subduing it. The other 2 were just helping. The true power was coming from the rank 8 celestial. His manifestation was activated behind him, and his spirit blood had condensed in the chains. His face was pale. Capturing such a powerful Earth Flame Spirit Beast was not easy for him, and he needed to pay a huge price. The majority of his spirit blood had already been exhausted. However, as long as he succeeded in capturing it, it would be worth it. Spirit blood could be slowly recovered, but such a powerful earth flame was priceless to an alchemist. Although Pill Valley also had earth flames of this ranking, they were just earth flame seeds. Their power couldn't compare to these earth flame spirit beasts. If he could refine this earth flame spirit beast into an earth flame seed, it would be many times stronger than an ordinary earth flame seed. It had to be known that for alchemists, the slightest difference in the power of their earth flames could benefit them immensely. The disciples who had entered the Heaven Dragon Flame region all came prepared. They had powerful sealing arts that could be backed by the spirit blood to capture the earth flames. This kind of sealing art wouldn't make the earth flame spirit beast feel endangered. Instead, it would feel very comfortable. Then it wouldn't resist so fiercely. As the rank 8 celestial poured in his spirit blood, the earth flame spirit beast's struggling weakened. Chains of spirit blood spread like a net, wrapping over the earth flame spirit beast in multiple layers. Now it looked like it had fallen into a slumber. A success. The rank 8 celestial was pale and exhausted, but he was ecstatic. He only had time for one cheer of success before a flame spear suddenly pierced through his head from behind, destroying his body and soul. Long Chen was hidden and watching, and he had long since noticed a figure stealthily approaching. With the three of them focused on the earth flame spirit beast, they hadn't sensed this danger. As a result, when their nerves relaxed after sealing the earth flame spirit beast, the rank 8 celestial was slain. "Who's there?" The other two disciples were shocked. They hadn't been expecting a sudden sneak attack. Furthermore, their opponent had killed one of them mercilessly. "This earth flame spirit beast belongs to me, Master Long San. You two ants aren't worth killing." Scram. The sneak attackers suddenly took off his mask, revealing Long San. Those two disciples were horrified. "Go back and report to that idiot Jiang Zijuan that he should wash his neck. I'll be taking his head soon." That Long San sneered at the two of them disdainfully. The distant Long Chen stared in shock. But he quickly realized that this was an attempt to frame him. It seemed that they had been given orders to kill other disciples while impersonating him. In any case, when the time came, all those people's deaths would be pushed onto him. Those two disciples were terrified. Suddenly, one of them took out a spear. That Long San immediately stabbed his flame spear forward, destroying his arm. The spear landed in Long San's hand, and he sneered, "You want to summon reinforcements? Truly courting death. Since you want to die, I'll help you out." That Long San suddenly let go of his spear. Flames soared into the sky, and a sea of runes appeared behind him. He was also a rank 8 celestial. Those disciples looked at each other in dismay. Clenching their teeth, they shot off in different directions. "Oof, crafty," snorted Long San. He didn't chase. Instead, he walked toward the sealed earth flame spirit beast. The earth flame spirit beast was bound in layers of flame chains that were like a cocoon. There were multiple layers of blood-colored runes amongst them. Seeing it, Long San smiled. This was quite a large side benefit. Long San had just reached out to pull it into his spiritual space when it vanished. Suddenly, a figure appeared in front of Long San. "Long San?" Long Chen looked at this incomparably shocked fellow. He sneered, "Your disguise isn't bad. So, tell me, what do you think you're doing?" "You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.